Welcome to the Real Comic Heroes Podcast. Your adventure into the world of comic book movies starts here.
Greetings, citizens, and welcome to another adventure of the Real Comic Heroes Podcast. My name's Travis.
And I'm Patrick.
Where the hell have you been, man?
Yeah, softball for the kid, a funeral mixed in. It's been a wild ride.
Yeah. All right, well, quick hot takes. Austin Powers, Lost World, and Fifth Element were the ones you missed.
Oh, I know. Well, for most of them, I know. Austin Powers, I still like it, even though it's kind of cringeworthy, but I don't know. It's stupid.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's always going to hold a special place. I'm sure it probably wouldn't land as good nowadays, but
It mostly held
for the
up.
time
Yeah.
it was, yeah. Lost World can just,
Stay lost.
I'm good. I think it reappeared in this last Jurassic Park. But then Fifth Element's just a classic. I'm kind of bummed I missed out on that one.
Well,
Did you mention my favorite part of that?
I did.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
No worries there. But we are not alone.
Much like the movie Batman decided to say, "Hey, how about Robin?"
Yeah.
We're bringing in a guest as well. So we've got Riley Silverman joining us. Riley, did you want to say howdy to the folks?
Hey, how's it going? I thought you were going to say it's like Batgirl, where she's just at the very end. She's like, hey, I'm
I
also
guess we
here.
could've gone that route. Yeah.
Such a weird scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into Batgirl and all of it.
Oh, yes.
Unfolded there, but
Well, yeah.
yeah, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited. We had a little bit of a chaos situation before we started where my internet went out and we had a lot of back and forth trying to figure out how to solve it. But luckily it came back on right before we were supposed to start anyway, so it kind of worked out okay.
Yeah, I feel like that's every podcast, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's always some horror story.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the 21st century.
Thank you. Yeah, I was preparing to do the entire podcast by carrier pigeon. I was going to write all my thoughts down and send them to you in a letter and then have you read them.
Yeah.
I knew I should have got that ham radio license. Damn it.
My dearest Batman.
Yeah.
Your absence pains me to the core.
Well, there hasn't been a Commissioner Gordon around here for 25 years.
All right. So, yeah, I guess we're talking about Batman and Robin, 1997.
Finally time.
Oh, my gosh.
Clooney Batman.
And that's, I feel like lately I'm asking this question a lot. Riley, why did you want to be on for this episode?
You know what? 100% of it is Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy. It was a very, the movie came out in 97. I think I was like 16 years old at that point in time. Maybe 15, 16 when I saw this movie in theaters. And as a young, very closeted queer girl, like Uma Thurman. And I also was like, already loved Poison Ivy from the animated series. Mm-hmm. And so like she was my favorite villain. And so I was like, cool, I really want to like have her be in a movie, so I was like excited to see it at the time, and then I saw the movie, and I was like, oh no, I meant to use the I don't know what's your swearing policy on this podcast?
You're fine. Let him rip.
Me seeing this movie in theaters, I think might have been like one of the early film versions of fucking around and finding out. Like, hey, let's see what happens when we see a Batman and Robin, and then you see it and you're like, oh no. But at the same time, regardless of all of its many documented flaws, I still maintain my love of Uma Thurman in this movie, and she's still Poison Ivy for me, and I still think that there's something about her performance that I still really love, despite everything else about the movie that I don't care for. So I think that's why it was a fun one to choose to talk about. I was like, I can get down with having to watch some Uma Thurman and some more Pamela Isley.
Right on, Patrick. What do you what's your history with Batman and Robin?
Sounds like me and Riley are around the same age. So yeah, I was at the theater, pumped to see some Batman and Robin. Wasn't sure what to expect because, going from Burton to Schumacher, it's a tonal shift to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But this one really leaned into that comic book / campy Adam West era.
Yeah.
Kind of too much. Like,
yeah.
I
Well,
felt
it's not
it
even
was
that's too much. It just doesn't do it well. It's just badly executed.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I definitely think it's the closest to an Adam West Batman that you see in any of the films, except for the Adam West film, obviously. But it doesn't. None of it works. Like, I don't know. Like,
Right.
it's like something about it is off in a way that's like frustrating. Because I think that I don't know. I don't know if it's that the Adam West version is aware of what it's doing, and this one is trying to do it seriously, but also like it's like it wants to have fun with itself. I don't actually know how to describe what's wrong with
sure.
it, but it does. It feels like it's trying to do the Adam West style of Batman, but also make it seem really cool and trendy.
Yeah.
And I think that's the flaw.
Yeah, I felt like they were trying too hard.
Yeah.
Like, and just overcommitting and under delivering.
Yeah, I have heard Schumacher has said it. I mean, obviously he's no longer with us, but I believe he had said at some point before he passed away that this is not what he wanted to do with it. Like, I feel like he gets a lot of the flack for what he did to Batman, but it's, I mean, obviously he came back for a second movie, but I feel like this is a really good example of way too many studio notes like coming in and pushing what they want as opposed to similar to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3.
Yeah. Well, and coming off of Batman Returns, the studio definitely wanted to get away from the dark and gritty, Batman that the direction it was headed. So
yeah, and now it's the only thing we can do with Batman apparently is dark and gritty.
Yeah, for better or worse.
Yeah, I would love to see someone who knows what they're doing do a new Batman take that is more like that leans a little bit more towards the cartoonishness of it.
Sure.
Without being super dark and I'm fine with the noirish elements of it. Like I would like a more like Batman animated series type tone as well would be fine, like that type thing. And I actually did really enjoy the Matt Reeves Batman movie more than I thought I was going to when I finally saw it. But this is definitely not what I want. Like I want something that has fun with Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like this movie doing what it did is why we will never get that again in theaters, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
it's funny
it's
that
definitely very corporate, this movie. It's
Yeah.
I mean, I think they even make a joke about a toy line. Like,
action figure. Action figure.
Yeah, like,
there's a couple of really big
Bane or something.
Yeah. Oh, what they do to Bane in this movie is a war crime.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of fourth wall breaking. There's a lot of like lines along those lines and things like that, which is very frustrating. And there's a couple moments that are very directly 60s Batman, like the weird labels on things, like things that have like the title right there for it, and the fact that it's the bad guy has a lair with henchmen that are all lined up, ready to be like that's very 60s Batman.
Yeah. This was the first time I remember going to a movie. Well, I guess it was kind of a 1-2 punch of, a month before this came out was The Lost World. We just reviewed it last episode, and so seeing that, I was let down a little bit with that at the time, and then seeing this a month later, this really let me down. And I think it was the first time where I was learning that movies can be bad. I was, what was I? I was 14 years old, and, I absolutely loved Batman Forever, but Batman Forever was my movie. So I was kind of going into this with that excitement, and even then I realized like, man, this is really not good. So that's kind of where and then I've watched it a few times since then, mostly for, if someone is talking about this on a podcast or, going on a show like Bat Minute, reviewing it. I mean,
I think I've only ever, since seeing it in theaters, I may have only ever revisited it for something to be consumed. I think I've only revisited it to write an article about it for a website, or because as a professional nerd, I have to do that a lot, or to talk about it on a podcast. I feel like those are my,
watching it unfolds, they're following the Batman Forever plot. I mean, it's in so many places, it's beat for beat the same movie. It obviously does some things different, but it opens the same way, has the same credit sequence, the suiting up montage, the Batcave reveal, a quippy line, and then we're headed towards, a crime. So
a villain lair.
What do you want to talk about first, the suit up montage or the Batmobile?
Well, the suit up was just a recap of
what
they did in the previous movie. It was just
and the new suits, the way that these two guys look in their suits, like I
liked Robin.
Yeah.
It looked more like Nightwing.
I know.
than Robin. So
Yeah.
I liked his suit.
And they're kind of like hinting at aspects of like what Nightwing's story in the comics
Mhm.
is, of wanting to be,
oh sure,
more independent and like being seen as a partner and not a sidekick, because they kind of skipped over Robin as sidekick in these movies because he's already like an adult when you get to him. Basically, it's like not Robin as a teenage ward
Right.
who has to like learn the ropes. It's Robin as like a dude.
they're trying to have their cake and eat it too with that, because I love this whole Robin suit. I think he looks amazing, but yeah, you can't really make him Nightwing because he's barely been Robin, So
Yeah.
they're really trying to. His suit in this works absolutely, but I even think that Clooney looks good in that suit. I like the way he looks in that bat suit.
Yeah, I just hate
I
the
think
cowl.
Clooney gets a lot of flack for his Batman in
Yeah.
general. I don't think the problem in this movie is Clooney's Batman.
I agree.
I think Clooney,
Yeah.
if you put Clooney in a different Batman movie and let him like have a real script that
Yeah.
had actual lines of dialogue and not just quips, I think he might have been a pretty good Batman. And I think he would have been a very good Bruce Wayne.
I love his Bruce Wayne in this. I think him with Alfred, I absolutely love those scenes in this movie. And then I found myself enjoying his Batman scenes for the most part. So
you enjoyed the little hallucination kind of like flashbacks?
yeah, the memories of being a child and seeing
Okay.
his fatherly figure in Alfred. Yeah,
I do like the moment where it's like a completely jet black window,
Yeah.
and then it's like,
Yeah.
and then like it's like there's the graveyard, and then like it's the way things like layer in on each other. It's
Yeah.
a very bizarre choice directorial.
yeah. Oh man,
Yeah, I felt like Clooney was just George Clooney. Like,
yeah.
I didn't feel like he was Batman. Like,
There's a bit
But I
of
think
that.
the thing is that I think George Clooney is a good Bruce Wayne because
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne feels like a George Clooney in most
Yeah.
versions. He just feels like a cool, suave, like playboy. Like that's the Bruce Wayne mask.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because Batman to me is either, the Boy Scout version that Adam West had, or kind of dark and gravelly.
the brooding, yeah.
Yeah.
And Val Kilmer kind of rode that line. He
Mhm.
definitely had nailed the brooding aspect of it. And we didn't get a chance to really see him much as the playboy. I mean, a little bit, but this was interesting because they do show him, in public a few times with his girlfriend, apparently long-term or long-time
McPherson.
kind of girlfriend. So it's just interesting. To see
yeah, I
that
feel
side.
like they put that in there and then it doesn't really go anywhere. Like it's
True.
like
Yeah.
she
It was
really
weird.
only is in the movie so that he can be fantasizing about Ivy while she's talking to him.
Yeah.
And like vaguely the idea of like, oh, you don't want to commit to having a partner, you want to be by yourself or whatever.
Right.
But in a way that's purely expository and in no way serves the story.
Yeah.
And then she just kind of stops being important to the story entirely, and you just don't see, like, you see her again at one point, but
Yeah.
not in any way that there's set up this idea of like, will you commit and settle down with me or anyone, and then you never see anything about that ever again in the movie.
Yeah. It's definitely, it feels like, well, we need to have a love interest because it's a Batman movie. We always have a love interest, but the story doesn't really have a place for a love interest. Well, we'll just get someone who looks good, But I mean,
And it's like a love interest that like he's already in a relationship with for a year, and there's like nothing to
Yeah.
learn about her.
Yeah.
Anyway, like at least your Vicky Vales, your Selena Kyles, and your whatever Kim Basinger's or Nicole Kidman's character's name was in Batman Forever, whatever her character's name was. She was was she a psychiatrist?
yeah, she was a psychiatrist, or I'm not sure what the title is, but yeah, Chase
Or some sort of thing,
Meridian.
yeah. Okay,
And,
yeah. I can't believe I could not. You could not have told me. I never could have guessed that character's name
Right.
if you had given me an hour to think about it. So
Hmm.
yeah, this
So,
one
yeah.
she's just like, they're already together. They're like, hey, you
Yeah.
two been together. Are you gonna get married? Maybe. And then nothing else.
Yeah.
No, nothing about what he likes about her, what she likes about him,
No.
like how they met, like what's going on, where do they go for dinner on a good night? Like I don't know. There's nothing about them in this movie. It's just that he has a girlfriend. It's almost like they were like, hey, we know that everyone's gonna think these suits are super homoerotic,
Right.
so let's establish that Bruce has a girlfriend.
I would not be surprised if that's a studio note. Like, he has to have a love interest because we don't want people to think that Batman and Robin are gay, So
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Even though like his excuse for not marrying her really sounds like he's secretly gay. Like he
Sure.
says something. I know we're not at that point in the movie yet, but he makes it like, there's things about me you don't know.
Yeah.
And I really like my confirmed bachelor lifestyle. It's like, okay, Rock Hudson, let's talk about that a little longer.
Yeah, I
oh,
like
man.
that they've been together a year and she's,
Still doesn't know that
Not-
he's Batman.
not a clue for.
Yeah.
She just says he's got a wild nightlife or something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like,
Which she's apparently fine with the guy she's
Yeah.
like dating and like apparently you have some weird late night thing that you do.
I think she's
Yeah.
got some of her own to deal with
Yeah.
if she's willing to hang out with that. But hey,
Oh man, we are getting way ahead of ourselves. My feelings on the Batmobile we see here in the opening kind of cave sequence, and I hate this Batmobile. I think it has a decent silhouette, like it has some nice lines to it, but when he sits in it, he looks like a Happy Meal toy because it has no windshield. It's just an open top, and it's just, I don't know. His big head just sticks out of it, and it looks really weird. So that's all I have to say
I'm not a
about
fan
that.
in
Really.
general of this whole era of Batmobiles.
Mhm.
Like, even the Burton ones, the long, like the stretch limo style Batmobile is like not my favorite.
Mm,
yeah, I think I like the latest one a lot.
yeah.
I do
Reeves.
too. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
that's
fun.
what I want. Yeah, I want just like a cool car. I don't want this weird limo type car. I don't want the weird assault vehicle type thing from the Bale years.
Yeah.
I think the most recent one is maybe my favorite on screen Batmobile.
I really dig that car. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at it, and it makes no sense that it's a one-seater too.
Yeah, like
Especially now that he's got Robin.
Yeah.
It's like,
Robin,
come on, dude.
follow me on your bike, kid.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he doesn't like make it a sidecar or something. Just
Mhm.
connect his.
I mean, that
Like
would
to
be
his Batmobile.
accurate to the Adam West. I'm
Yeah, that's
surprised that the his bike and the car don't connect.
Yeah.
I also like the idea is they're supposed to be rushing off into danger, but like they have to wait for the thing to come up with the Batmobile, and then he gets in that,
Mhm.
and then he leaves, and then Robin has to wait for his thing to come up and open up. Like the efficiency in the Batcave is really not to its best par in
Right.
this movie.
Yeah. We get little hints.
Poor Alfred's just dying in the Batcave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
as they leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very heavy-handed little foreshadowing for Alfred.
Yeah.
But no, I like the sick Alfred plotline throughout this movie. You know, I think it's a welcome element that, you know, we'll talk about it more as we go, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, I'm generally in favor of it. It's not another movie about Bruce wrestling with being Batman. You know, there's
Yeah.
you know, they have a sick member of the family throughout the movie, and I like seeing kind of where that goes. So
Yeah, I'm into that. My dream would be to have a new Batman movie that's actually a Bat family movie the way this is, but just done better. And
Sure.
that's a good element of it. Of like, hey, how does Bruce reckon with dealing with other people in his life while also being Batman? And I think like this movie and like Lego Batman are the two that most get on those beats. But I would like to see like a really well constructed Bat movie that has that kind of vibe to it. Because I feel like the comics have been doing that for so long at
Yeah.
this point that it's weird that it's not. Like we were talking earlier about the Nightwing style suit and how much I want to see Nightwing in a movie, and I think that's my biggest frustration with the push towards constantly rebooting Batman movies as darker movies is we never get to Robin. If we
Yeah.
never get to Robin, then we never get to Nightwing. We never get to
Yeah.
other Robins. We never get to a Damian Wayne Robin. We never get to all the Batgirls and things like that. Like I would like to have those storylines play out in a live action film
Yeah.
more than we've ever gotten.
no, that's fair. Yeah, it's frustrating that we haven't had another Robin, you know, since
Yeah,
this.
closest we've had is Joseph Gordon-Levitt,
Yeah.
sort of in those. And that was such a tacked on like fan service moment and
Oh,
not like
man.
a story moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've always wanted to see the Batgirl when she get paralyzed and becomes like the
Yeah.
Oracle?
Watchtower person or something.
Yeah, the Oracle. Yeah. That-
Oracle, yeah.
But then you gotta build to that. You know, you can't just
Yeah, but
Yeah.
we just keep restarting.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
like,
we never get to it.
Yeah.
you never get to it. Yeah, because that to me is like a real interesting spot in the stories I've heard.
Yeah, I remember at one point there was talk of in Batman v Superman they were going to have like Jenna Malone playing the female Robin from Batman
Yeah.
from Dark Knight Returns, and I would have loved if they had actually done that. Like I don't know if they actually filmed any of it and cut her out, or if it never got to that when they were filming and they'd already cut those scenes from the script.
Right.
But I remember when it was being talked about. I was legitimately excited for that part of it.
It would have worked because that movie did. I mean, I don't know if it did a good job, but it did a job of establishing that there were Robins, or at least one Robin. So
Yeah. The Jason Todd Robin, right? Like,
Yeah. And you would assume that Dick came before that.
Yeah, and I like that movie because I feel like that movie proved that, like, despite the other issues with that movie, as far as Batman is concerned, it proved that you can just pick up a Batman movie in the middle of Batman's story.
Yeah.
You don't have to do. And I think The Batman also did that fairly well, of being like, okay, he's already Batman. We're not going to relive his parents' death. We're just going to start with him already being Batman for a couple of years. So I'm hoping that maybe as a result of Marvel kind of pushing away from origin stories and that movie doing well, that we can maybe just get, even if they reboot Batman again after The Batman, hopefully they can do it where it's just like, okay, here's this guy.
Right.
He's Batman. You all know who he is. We're just going to get right into him now.
Now I'm trying to think of how that Matt Reeves Batman plays when Batman's just staring at the kid for like a really uncomfortable amount of time.
Yeah.
If you don't know the backstory,
Yeah.
you're like, what's with this dude?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
They go to the art museum. You know, it's the kind of it's the same sort of sequence as Batman Forever. They going to the bank, but it leads us to this art museum that turns into a action set piece, stunt spectacular sort of thing, and man,
Ice capades.
Yeah, I hate this scene. Location
Bat-skates?
so much because everything looks so fake. You know,
It does. It looks like such a bad set.
Because we have these like ice formations that are clearly just plastic. You know, they're meant to be real ice. You know, and it's just some things I can buy into. I'm fine with Freeze's suit that lights up and is a big suit of armor or whatever. I'm fine with that generally, but it's the stuff like the details of the icicles on the cops and the ice formations and the fact that the floor is just they've just laid down like this reflective material to mimic ice. I don't know. The details like that really get to me with this. Probably doesn't help that this sequence was the scene that I had in when I was on Bat Minute, so I really focused on these few minutes.
Well, and to like heavily open your movie with a scene that is all stunt double is very strange. Like it's there's always people, like there's all these shots of the backs of characters and never like it's such a weird sequence. And like I made the joke about ice capades earlier, but it feels like an ice capade. It feels like when those ice shows are like, we have Batman coming, and they'll do like a weird thing in the middle of it, and suddenly a bunch of people come out and skate around.
Right.
And like they have people on boats and stuff like that. It just feels so choreographed and fake. This is also, I will say, this is one of the scenes that the most to me feels like an Adam West era Batman scene. And I think it would have worked in the 60s because it all looks so cheesy and fake, and that's part of the buy-in. But this one's trying to make things that feel like lived in and touched next to the cheesy fake stuff, and I think that's where it falls flat for me. And
everything they film is wobbly, and then once Batman and Robin show up and they start fighting, the physics in this sequence, they're so rubbery. Like Robin takes this this pole that he gets from something, and he skates 5 feet and propels himself through the air as if he's had this big run up, and then Freeze does things with like grabbing a security guard and throwing him, but everything just looks poorly done, and I can go with the campiness of it, but just do it well,
Yeah.
So
I just wonder, this is actually probably not real, but I'm curious if the moment where they have Robin trying to ice skate kind of up steps a little bit with that pole you're talking about, I'm wondering if that's the thing they're referencing in the movie Blade, when Blade says motherfuckers always trying to ice skate uphill. I wonder if that was like a weird dig at Batman and Robin, or if it just happens to be a good turn of phrase. I never thought of it until this moment.
Yeah, very specific burn, but maybe.
Yeah, probably not, but I think it'd be really funny if that was it.
Yeah.
Like, here's how you do a real comic book. And that's a good comic movie that's extremely campy at times, but also plays it off very well.
Yeah.
I'm frustrated in the scene where they're in the rocket. So when Freeze blasts off in this rocket and Batman's like, hey, if this blows up, it's going to kill thousands of people. But then he's pissed at Robin for showing up and saving the day. Like, it's such a weird thing to be like, no, you should have stayed behind and fought the thugs and let thousands of people die, and myself as well.
Right. And that's the one. I mean, it's a big problem with, they want their relationship, they want them to be at odds 100% of the time. And you don't need them to be at each other's throat you don't have to start it here, and it doesn't have to be every single scene that they share that ends with, oh, you just don't trust me, So
yeah, my biggest problem too is that almost every line of dialogue between masked characters in this movie is a quip. There's almost no straight dialogue. It's every single time, like in this rocket, it's like, hey, watch the first step, gonna call a taxi, surf's up. Like every single thing is a joke, and almost always a joke about what's coming ahead of time that the characters wouldn't know about ahead of time to call the quip out for. There's a bunch of lines like that later in the film that are like that too, where it's so frustrating. I'm like I like a good quip. I like a good character who is snarky or makes a joke, but make it authentic and real. Don't make it just a screenwriter writing funny lines that don't actually work for the most part.
Right.
Yeah, I blame Schwarzenegger for that. It was like the one-liners.
Yeah.
I was surprised he was top billed too. I forgot about that.
I'm not.
As Mr. Freeze.
Yeah, but
this is pre the height of Clooney. This is like Clooney's second movie after ER.
Right.
Because I think he had done The Peacemaker at this point. And
yeah.
This is like
One Fine Day, maybe.
It's just weird that the main character is not the top billed character.
Well, look at Nicholson was top billed over Keaton.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, Arnold Schwarzenegger was probably at the height of his fame in the mid to late 90s. Like, this is right after T2. This is like where he had broken into like he was the action hero. Mm-hmm. So I'm
may have done Eraser like right before this, or I can't remember where that falls. It might come after this, but I think that performed poorly, but I think it was still, people thought it was going to be big. But I don't dislike. I found myself really having fun with Schwarzenegger in this. I thought I was going to hate every single scene he was in, but I actually enjoyed him throughout this.
He's good sparingly. I mean, it does get old after a while with the ice puns.
Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
Because a lot of them aren't even puns. A lot of them are just him saying a word like, "Hey, keep cold."
Yeah.
Like, all right, great. Like, winter's coming. Okay, yeah, we get it. You're Mr. Freeze. Like, there's a certain point where it's like, we get it.
Yeah. But then that is taken, from the 60s show.
Yeah.
I mean,
totally.
But, I had a problem with the rocket scene.
Oh yeah.
With him freezing Batman, and then all the smoke goes away, and all you see are Batman's little T-Rex hands, like wrapped in the ice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I thought he was gonna be covered. Like,
oh sure.
It's just like his wrist and like most of his fingers are still out. Like, it really did anything.
Yeah.
And it just left Batman looking so sad.
Yeah. And
it's like, who thought that was a good shot?
Right.
Like,
I don't know what Freeze's plan there was, because he arrived in that like Herkimer battle tank that's all doped out, and but then leaves in a rocket, and I guess he planned to take Batman up, and then planned to jump out in his little butterfly wings. I don't know. When you follow it along, it's like, what was his plan here? But yeah.
And like his overall plan is to freeze the city and then hold the city hostage for billions of dollars.
Of course.
But all he needs is diamonds. So it's like, you're already good at stealing diamonds. Like, why do you have this weird $1 billion freezing plan?
They do kind of
place.
Are the diamonds getting used up by the suit? Like, are they getting?
I guess so, because he has to recharge or add new diamonds to his suit.
So he's stolen like $1 billion worth of diamonds, but keeps using it to steal more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. He needs money to finish his research to save his wife, but they never explain like why he needs that money. Like, what is he using the money for in his research that that you as a supervillain are able to like just go down and buy like more more stethoscopes and more Bunsen burners and stuff like. Like, I don't understand what the money is going for in his research that he's raising it for. One of my big problems with this movie, besides everything, is that it can't decide if it wants Freeze to be a sympathetic villain or not. Like, it gives you the idea of, like, oh, he's doing this all to save his wife, but then they also have him gleefully going on, like, murder rampages and being excited about murdering and things like that. And I it's been a while since I've watched a Mr. Freeze animated series episode or read a Mr. Freeze comic, but I feel like I remember there being an aspect of Mr. Freeze at least in the animated series, where the idea was, like, he's cold-blooded, like his heart is cold, and that's, like, part of why he is the way he is. Because I remember in Batman Beyond, there was that whole storyline where he, like, got cloned and he was, like, reformed, but the more his body temperature dropped, the more he started turning towards evil. Yeah. And I kind of wish the movie had maybe found a way to play that in, of, like, this is why he's so cruel, because his heart is cold or something. Which I know what they do. They do that now on The Flash with Killer Frost, like, oh, she's cold-hearted.
Okay.
So.
Well, they definitely... they were mining a lot of the character elements from the animated series. When you the first time you meet Freeze in the animated series, the Heart of Ice episode. I mean, that episode won an Emmy, like a daytime Emmy, because it's an amazing half hour of television. I mean, regardless that it's animated, like Michael Ansara's performance as Freeze, is just, it's heartbreaking. And so they're trying to they want that, but you have Arnold Schwarzenegger, as that character. And unfortunately you can't do all the puns and have him, be this tragic figure who just wants to save his wife,
Yeah.
So
they try to have both in this, and neither one works fully.
Yeah. Then meanwhile in the jungle, man, I struggle with all.
The ununited nations. You're not a fan of you're not a big fan of the ununited nations.
Oh man,
and our mysterious benefactor who never comes into play ever.
Yeah. I think
one thing I want to say. Sorry, you had a thought before I go off on my thought.
Batman, I think, theorized that was Lex Luthor was the unnamed bidder for this, but
I'm happy with that. That's fine. I'll take that explanation.
Yeah. What were you gonna say?
Well, I was speaking of Lex Luthor, I did have a realization while watching this scene, is that John Glover has now played villain adjacent characters for 3 separate DC superheroes, because he's Lex Luthor's father on Smallville, he's in this movie, and then he's also the father in Shazam. He's old man. So what that guy's name? I always say the guy's name wrong, but Mark.
Mark Strong.
Yeah, Mark Strong's father in that movie, like.
Well, and then he was in the animated series. He was the voice of the Riddler.
Yeah, so he's an actual villain in the animated series, but live action he has now been villain adjacent in 3 separate DC projects.
And in this, he's playing a legitimate DC character. Jason Woodrue is the Floronic Man, who's kind of a Swamp Thing villain. He might even predate Swamp Thing. Just like a plant-based villain, which they oddly they don't really use that side of him here. He's working with Pamela Isley, but this whole like Poison Ivy sequence. I'll be honest. This is the part of the movie that I dislike the most. Is most of Poison Ivy's stuff, and I don't like Uma Thurman, and I really never have. So she's never worked for me. But that's just my personal. Thing.
Well, it was fun being here. Thank you for yeah. My thing with Uma Thurman in this movie is I think Uma Thurman is doing maybe I feel like I wish anybody else had shown up for the movie that Uma Thurman thinks that she is in, but I think like she's the one who's having the most fun with what she's doing. Everybody else feels like they're all there to get a paycheck in this like ridiculous thing, and Uma Thurman is like doing. I think she's the most like a Lee Merriweather or Eartha Kitt. Like she has that very 60s Batman villain thing happening.
True.
And I think the movie itself is not supporting it, but I think what she's doing is having so much fun with it. That's why I like her. And also I'm a big Poison Ivy fan in general.
Yeah.
I would like to see a much better Poison Ivy movie done, but I'm enough of a fan of the character that I'm like, just every little ounce of joy that I can get out of her I will take, because the movie does not give me anything else to love.
Yeah.
But this, I mean, I'll admit this origin is so dumb. Like he just throws her over a table basically, and then she becomes. And then I also, one thing I hate in this movie is everyone knows too much of things they shouldn't know. So like when she comes out of her little pit and she's like just listing off every single change that's just happened internally for her body, and I'm like, really, you know all this? Like how do you know all this?
Right.
Like, this is like, it would have made more sense if she had been actively doing these things with living creatures. I suppose, as opposed to just giving plants. Like if she had said like, oh, I have given a creature chlorophyll instead of blood.
Yeah.
I have given, like, so then it would make sense that she would know why these things happen to her. But instead, like, she's been not even working with like animals. She's been working with plants. She calls him a monster for doing what he does to Bane. But then she's like, oh, I'm fully aware of the science behind this whole project.
Yeah.
I think with Uma Thurman, you have to either dig what she's trying to do, because I think she's basically just trying to be like a 50s 60s bombshell, kind of like her whole demeanor, and that could either be something you go along with or not. And for me, I think I was fine with it. I mean, she's the least of my worries with this movie, by far. So I didn't mind her. And it was kind of, the only thing I didn't like was when she switched back and forth, like later on, where she can pretend to be her old self with the wig.
Yeah. I do like that she puts a wig on at all, because like no one knows who you are. You don't, like, you're not someone people know. So like, why are you suddenly wearing a wig to show up? Like, you could just be.
I thought they did that in case Bruce knew her, but he obviously didn't.
I think it's more she can.
They worked.
She can be a little slightly like unassuming as Pamela Isley, but everyone's going to notice her, and she's going to make a scene if she's Poison Ivy. So I think it's just she's using both sides of that of her character to, you know, do different things. You know, at one point she just wants to meet and harass Bruce Wayne, and then I think the next time she wants to talk to Commissioner Gordon to get the keys to the goddamn bat signal, because that's a plot point in this movie. I think
also her hair is like a striking red hair.
Oh yeah,
maybe they're thinking like, oh, that makes you stand out as not just like a regular person.
Yeah,
but
I like how she can design like this drug to do all this, but she can't follow where a spotlight comes from.
Yeah.
Well, that's an unsolvable mystery. Right there.
She needs a key. She can't just like have a plant grow and pull at the top of the building.
I think it was I keep bringing up Batman, but I think it was John over there, like they theorized, or like they watched this movie with, if you just view Poison Ivy as a drag queen, it totally works, you know. So just that type of like over the top performance. So
well, I mean, I guess like that kind of goes into what Patrick was saying and what I said earlier about the original 60s series, is I do think she's doing the Julie Newmar, the Merriweather, Eartha Kitt type Catwoman type performance, but as Poison Ivy. And I think that that's a lot of the same kind of stuff that a lot of drag is pulling from.
Sure.
So that's why it makes sense. Like she's playing this, like, I don't want to say femme fatale because it's more campy than that, but she is playing like a campy 60s and 70s style female villain, and that is what a lot of like drag is playing, this really over the top female performances. That's why like Tu Wong Fu has literally got Julie Newmar in the title of the film, because like she's someone they would be emulating.
Right.
So Poison Ivy's here.
Poison Ivy's here, and then we get Bane.
No, we don't. We get a guy there calling. I'm not even a giant Bane fan, but this is such an insulting use of this character.
It is.
Even in the 90s as a kid who like had barely read that many of the Batman comics and mostly knew Batman at the time from the cartoon and from the original Burton movies.
Yeah.
Like, I was mad at how much they just wasted Bane in this movie. And then they know they used Bane because he, at the time in the comics, it was a big deal.
Right.
And they just stuck him in, but he's just a glorified henchman and somewhat, and like horrifically offensive stereotype. Like, it's just, it's so bad.
Yeah. It's weird because he is the only, at the time, the only modern character in this movie, you know, because he only came around in like 92, maybe 93. But he was hugely popular, or you know, especially the way he was used in that Nightfall kind of story arc. But yeah, he just used as a heavy here, and yeah.
He's just like he seems to get stupid with it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He's like a
just
gorilla,
a
basically,
dumb
or
brute.
Keats words.
Yeah,
But before that, he's a regular guy that was a horrible human being. But
yeah.
and then in the cartoon, I thought he was more savvy as well.
Oh yeah, in the comic, he is brilliant. He comes to Gotham, and he ends up manipulating every villain in Gotham to attack Batman, so that Batman, by the time he's done, he is worn out, and then all Bane has to do is fight him once, and he breaks his back. Because he's just Batman is worn out from like weeks of being run ragged by all of his villains. So yeah, Bane's a mastermind strategist, and his size is just kind of secondary. He's
yeah.
And honestly, both times they've used him now in movies, they've made him into someone who ultimately was just following orders from another villain.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Dark Knight Rises, he was basically just doing what Talia al Ghul wanted him to do. So it's like this weird, like, hey, this guy, like, and up until that point, he had been a pretty good mastermind type character. Yeah. And then they just undercut him entirely, like, oh, he's actually just doing what she wants him to do, and it's frustrating because I think Bane is such an interesting character. And I feel like they did with both him and with Doomsday in Batman v Superman, where they're basically just like, hey, this guy we know in the comics is one of the toughest characters this character's ever faced, so we'll put them in there, but we won't do any. And it's similar with Spider-Man 3, with just tossing Venom in at the very end of the movie. It's such a wild thing that these studios, like, people like this character because they're tough, but we're not going to do anything whatsoever that made the character interesting in the comics.
Yeah, it's wild. They would get like somehow Bruce gets footage of Freeze. We get his history, kind of his backstory, how the accident happened, and then like another interaction between Bruce and Dick, and it ends this. I think this is where he's like thawing him out, or just after he'd thawed him out. Yeah. Of course, it ends the same with them at each other's throats, and then you get a nice Bruce Alfred scene that talking about family and all this. So I do enjoy that stuff, but
yeah. I wrote down that I was upset nobody said something along the lines of a dick sickle when he got frozen.
No, yeah, there are some blue moments in this movie.
They do mess with his name.
Yeah. They don't really cash in on that.
I think they would have been afraid to put any joke in that at all possibly implies that Batman and Robin are a gay couple.
Yeah.
I think Dick Sickle is definitely on that edge of things.
God, now I'm trying to think. Do you remember the short cartoon on SNL?
Like
ambiguously gay duo.
Yeah.
Was that around this time? I'm wondering if that.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah,
I think
probably. Yeah.
Because when Robert Smiley was writing for SNL.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that had anything to do with them being extra careful or something.
Maybe. I don't know.
I'm looking it up now. Ambiguously gay.
I mean, the whole movie, they're basically like fighting over a woman. That
96. 96 is when it first.
Okay.
I think it started, Robert Smigel. I think it started on Dana Carvey's show, and then it moved to SNL after that. So, yeah.
Yeah, but you're right. The Dana Carvey Taco Bell show, or whatever it was. Always had some corporate sponsor tied to it.
Yeah.
That was weird. But, I think I got off track on the Dick Sickle talk.
Yeah,
so sorry about that.
That's all right.
This movie does give me one thing that I do just genuinely love with the Batman and anything. Usually it worked best in the animated series, but Freeze's hideout is the only place in town you would expect Freeze's hideout to be. It's like the abandoned, boarded up ice cream factory.
Ice cream,
and like in the cartoons, in the comics, like it was always like Joker was always in a abandoned like carnival, thing. The fair at the down by the docks or whatever. But I do kind of like that here.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. And the goofy. This is where like they're leading into the goofiness of it.
Yeah.
Like,
his goons.
No one can have heated TV dinners. They're all eating blocks of ice, and they're watching the old Heat Miser, Snow Miser such a cartoon. I love the idea that he must have just that one section of that movie queued up to go and not have any of the Heat Miser stuff.
Yeah. And then they throw in Vivica A. Fox as this, his mall, like his someone just to monologue to, because he monologues to her and to Frosty, one of his main goons, for no reason. They're just there so he has someone to speak in front of. I think that's their only scene in this movie, but
I don't get. It's similar to the whole thing with Elle Macpherson. Like she's just there, but then there's like no purpose to her in the story or why she's there.
And it's like I think because Two-Face had two women on his arm in the previous movie, so they probably just thought, well, we'll give him one.
And the thing is, like, it works for Two-Face because the idea is like, oh, he has two sides of his personality, so he has two women that appeal to these sides of personality. But with Mr. Freeze, like, your entire plot is that he wants to save his wife,
right,
and also that like he's going to try to get so it's like giving him a girlfriend is the weirdest choice to give him because he's not supposed to be attracted to anybody but his wife.
Well, and like oddly, when he gets paired up with Poison Ivy, she has a big problem with the whole wife thing, and that becomes her own little side mission to kind of ruin that. You'd think that there would be another sequence where she meets I don't even remember her name, Vivica. I'm sure it's something ice related,
I can look it up.
But you'd think that they would have a scene together of just, I don't know, not getting along.
No, it's not even ice. Her name, I think she might be a character from the comics because it's so cartoonishly villainous. Her name is Ms. Behaven.
Oh, okay. Yikes.
Yeah.
So there's that. And we do. This is where we get Barbara as Alfred's niece. Alicia Silverstone kind of makes her appearance. I don't hate the change from being, traditionally being Gordon's daughter. But I don't know. I don't have a problem with Alicia Silverstone really.
I'm thrown off by Alfred having a niece that young.
Yeah. I'm
thrown off by him having a niece who's American, is also going to school in the UK. So it's like, really, you couldn't have given him a British niece. Like, I get that she was like coming off of Clueless and she was having her moment and they got her, but like, not even gonna try to give her a British accent or explain why his sister and her mom is from America, lives in America, or she was going to school somewhere in America and not Oxbridge, like their weird combination of Oxford and Cambridge.
Yeah.
Which that might be what they do. They might call it Oxbridge in the comics too. I'm not sure because I know DC has a lot of like fake city names and stuff. But
there's a interesting thing here that's like the first public philanthropic appearance of Bruce Wayne. He's showing off this telescope, and I think at this point they're kind of setting up that there will be the jewels, the flower ball or something like that. But they start the scene off. There's a bunch of reporters, and we don't get a lot of public Bruce Wayne. In Forever, he did go to the circus, and there was some publicity and press there. But I don't know. The scene starts out with Bruce Wayne actually giving like the tail end of a speech. So just a interesting thing that it took 4 movies to kind of get to.
And it's funny because this is like the first of many events for this one single cause. Like it's there's the thing today, and then tonight we're having Batman and Robin come to be there for this. Then we're gonna have the next event that happens here as well, which is where Poison Ivy comes to seduce Gordon. Like it's like so many different like balls are happening around this observatory.
Right. All to.
What'd you think of the observatory?
Oh,
the actual statue / holding a building.
I mean, they really ramped that up from Forever. I mean, really, in Returns had a lot of these statues and faces in the city, but then Forever started to ramp that up a little bit. But here, man, they have turned it up to 11 with the amount of statues as architecture and as structural elements to these buildings.
It's like positioned like this these hands holding it up in the sky, but it's like tilted back in a way to where it's almost like at a 90-degree angle. And so then I wonder what it's like when you're inside the building. Like, is it set up so that there is like when you're actually in the observatory, is there a flat ground and the walls all seem 90 degrees, or it's just the way it looks from the outside and the way it looks from the inside don't really line up for me mentally. Like, I don't understand how it's supposed to work.
I assume that the arms that are kind of come together and are holding it up, I'm assuming it's like a stairway through the arms, or inside the arms, like a tunnel. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I hadn't even thought about how you actually got into the observatory, but that makes a lot of sense too, as like a way for that to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like there's something connecting the head to the, I guess, hat box that it's holding.
Hat box.
I don't know how else to put that, but
Yeah.
yeah, it looks like there's some kind of structure behind it between the head and the.
Yeah.
I'm pausing it right now to look at it because I was wondering the same thing. Like, how do you get into that thing?
In this, scene, we meet two scientists who pop up, several times in this movie. They kind of become little side characters. It's weird though, because these two actors are in Batman Forever as different characters. The Dr. He calls him Dr. Chen, or Dr. Lee, I'm sorry. The actor's last name is Chen. Dr. Lee was telling Edward to get a grip when the whole, when Edward Nygma faked his boss's suicide. He's like, in like a executive, he was like a business capacity. And then the lady here, she is Bruce's executive assistant, Maggie. And from what I can tell, they're playing completely different people, unless two Wayne employees both quit to go, become scientists for this observatory. I don't know, but it's just kind of odd.
I wonder if those are like friends of Schumacher that are like he's like finds parts for them in the movie, and like people would be too picky about these these day player characters, and what roles they're playing. Because let's also be fair, this is a franchise where they replaced Billy D. Williams with Tommy Lee Jones. So
that's true. Yeah,
it's not like they're being and also Bruce Wayne looks different across three of the four movies. He's a different actor, so
that's funny.
They're not being super strict about it. Yeah. It's weird that like Commissioner Gordon's like the one guy who's like, I'm always the same, and also Alfred. It's those two are the stalwarts of this era of these movies.
That's funny. I mean, because I had noticed that as a kid, like I was like, these two people were in the earlier movie, but I don't think they're the same people. And it's one of those things that's always annoyed me. But yeah, you're right. I've never thought about everyone else in the movies that have changed. That's funny.
But it's also a thing they used to do a lot more of than they do now, where, like on TV shows, a lot of times you'd have the same person playing multiple characters over the course of the show. They would just give them a new hat and fake beard or whatever. I think nowadays it's a little bit harder to do that. And like now, unless somebody's coming in, like if it's a Bruce Campbell, where it's kind of a gag to have them come back as somebody else, or like obviously like Stan Lee, but he's not really an actor, but you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. But I think back then they were still getting away with it more often than they would now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's fair. We go to the... I guess there is a scene here with Bruce and Pamela. We kind of meet her civilian identity. It's interesting that she comes to Bruce with this document, this outline of like, here is how we can save the planet. And he kind of flips through it and then dismisses it with... we need to burn diesel fuel because without that, blah, 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 people will freeze. It's almost like maybe we could find a middle ground here, come to some understanding. Maybe you have good ideas and we have good ideas and we can, come up with something that will work. But they're both on opposite sides of this. But it's interesting, though, that she brings this document with all this information.
It feels like they're trying to do a parallel. Like you said, the movie's almost beat for beat the same movie as Forever was. And in Forever, Nygma comes in and is like, hey, I have this idea, but it's very dangerous. So like they're just kind of going, well, this person comes in with their crackpot scientific theories,
Right.
and Bruce Wayne debukes them. But yeah, I think that's like one of the things about Poison Ivy that's really interesting as a character, is that part of why she's kind of moved away from being a pure villain into being kind of an anti-hero as the era has gone on since she was first introduced in the 60s onward to now where she is. Like, I think it's getting harder and harder to make Poison Ivy feel like a true villain, because at the heart of her argument is like, I'm trying to save the planet. Like all they can really do with her is make her methods too extreme to be
Right.
usable, but they can't really, like, her actual ideology is one of the more benevolent of any villain in almost any, like, it's like her and Magneto are the only, like, the two villains where you're like, it's really hard to still see this character as a villain anymore, so we kind of have to, like, adjust the tone of the stories that she's in to make her make more sense, because it's, I think, like, this is a really good example of that, of, like, watching that scene now, I'm like, yeah, these are all things that we kind of push that we need to be doing more of. Like, we need to be cutting back on emissions and finding other alternatives for fuels and stuff like that. But back in '97, even, they were still treating it like, look at this crackpot, doesn't want us burning gasoline,
Right.
diesel fuel to give heat. It's such a wild thing.
We have to talk about the flower ball, which is the circus kind of scene from Batman Forever, more or less. It's this like auction that's happening, but all these guys are bidding on these women that, you know, they're representing Magnolia or Daffodil or whatever, but they're like outbidding each other, but not for the same person. It's like, I don't think that's how auctions work, or you know, I don't know. But then, you know, Ivy shows up, this whole like weird ape costume seduction sequence with her and Bane. I've always hated this sequence, so
that's where
I'm
the
into
furry
it, I'm not
craze
gonna lie.
came from.
okay.
I'm not into furries, but I'm again, as someone who, like, look, let's be fair. Like, Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn in the animated series are one of my, like, very first, like, queer ships
Sure.
that I ever had in my life.
Yeah.
And so I think someone who went in this movie with a already desire to be Poison Ivy's girlfriend, I think this scene very much is what I want it to be. So I'm very pro this scene, and I will definitely, like, it's ridiculous. I will not act like it's not ridiculous, but it works for me.
Okay. I absolutely love the pheromone dust, you know, weapon that she has. I think that's used really well. It's introduced here, and then, you know, obviously she leans on that throughout the movie. So I really dig that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good Poison Ivy style weapon to have. So
yeah. And then, I mean, we get into the whole bidding war between Batman and Robin, and then there's the forever joke, which it does make me smile that his card says forever, like good until forever or whatever. It's so dumb, but
Travis,
I actually do like that.
You're wrong. You can't laugh at that. That's so bad.
Yeah.
it's weirdly very aware of what it is, that these movies were good until forever.
Oh man.
I think that scene made me feel like that my dad wrote that joke.
Yeah.
Like it was like a play off of American Express or whatever slogan,
Yeah.
which is like a gag from like the 80s, and I don't know.
They use that line in the first Batman when they're the two thieves are going through the wallet of the guy. You know, this is an odd plan for Batman. Obviously, it's bait for Freeze. You're putting a lot of people in danger potentially to lure Freeze here. I mean, obviously that's probably why he takes the bait, because it's so crowded, I guess. But isn't there a more secluded way, or less less innocent lives at risk here?
Say it's on display at some exhibit.
Yeah, it's like the previous movie does not map onto what your villains are in this movie, and so trying to continue to use the old plot lines for this movie is like, what a flaw. Like it's wild how much they just stuck to that forever story beat when it doesn't make any sense in this.
Yeah.
And you could also like use a fake diamond that maybe would destroy his machine or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or have a homing
Like, give him
device
the
in it,
real
like a
thing.
tracking device.
Yeah, something like
Yeah.
Why would you actually give him what he needs? And just in case he gets away, you know?
Right.
But world's greatest detective.
Well, let's
true.
also point out that, like, I mean, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but the end of the movie, like, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Let me talk about the end of the movie. At the end of the movie, he sets up a lab at Arkham Asylum so that Freeze can continue his research to save his wife.
Yeah.
And it does feel like at any point in this movie, this is like, you know, there's the running joke about Batman, which is like, hey, Bruce Wayne could save so many more lives just by like helping with the infrastructure of Gotham City with his millions of dollars. And like the comics, I understand, like do a lot more about that anyway. But this feels like such a perfect example of that, of like Bruce Wayne literally has the power to fund Freeze's research and give him like carte blanche to save the world from McGregor syndrome. And instead he goes to this elaborate plan of like, I'm going to set up a fake jewel heist, as opposed to putting like as Bruce Wayne going on a press conference and saying, hey, if Victor Freeze will surrender to me, I will open up a wing at Arkham Asylum where he can continue his research. Like, that would be all he has to do.
That's amazing.
Spoilers. Alfred happens to have that disease as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You know, maybe help yourself at the same time there, Bruce.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's great.
Man, that's... Yeah, you just cut to the heart of this movie. It's over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no point.
And like, there's a million memes on the internet of movies that do things like that, where they make the
Sure.
gag of like, if this person said this thing at this, like, that's like, there's
Directed
a lot of Star
by
Wars ones.
Yeah.
So I get it. Like, I get the movie has to have it, but it's just so funny that he does come to that solution in the movie, but they never just did it. Like,
yeah, if they even just tweak the idea of like somehow he needs diamonds and his cryo technology as the way to cure, you know, this disease and her, but he just needs more diamonds or whatever. Yeah, I mean, make it that. Don't make it that his ultimate goal is money so that he can, you know, because Bruce has that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So, what did you think of Freeze's, I guess, sommelier skills with being able to figure out what that powder was just by smelling it?
I kind of like that
It
because
didn't
he's
work,
unaffected.
obviously,
Yeah, he's unaffected by it, of course. So I like that somehow that enables him to actually smell it, you know, or actually like take in what it is. And, you know, with everyone else,
it
they
was just weird
breathe
to
it
me
in and
that
they don't.
he do exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
oh,
I like it.
terrible,
I mean,
God.
he's a scientist, so I think he just figures out like, oh, this is what
Yes.
you're doing. Okay.
It
Yeah.
plays into the thing I said earlier about how everyone in this movie knows 100% of all the details being given to them.
Yeah.
It's too much of
Yeah.
that for me. So, like, he's a scientist, but he's not a
Botanist.
a botanist.
botanist,
So it is
yeah.
like,
Sure.
it's not like he just know. And like, again, like I think even a botanist like might know it, but even then they probably wouldn't just pick it up and smell it and go, well, I know
Yeah.
what this is. Like, it's so wild. Yeah.
I do like the way they play off of each other. I like once these two are together, I kind of like them as a, you know,
A duo. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, they hit, like I said, they hit that 60s when the villains would team up. They hit that vibe well. It feels very much like when you have like Cesar Romero Joker teaming up with Catwoman or whatever.
Sure.
Like, just, you know, their cartoonish villainy, it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, although, boy, Adam and Evil is such a ridiculous
oh
line.
yeah, yeah,
And like their pairing makes no sense because his ice is like the worst thing for her plants. Like she's obsessed with him. Oh, that man's a god. Like I need to team up with him. But like he is like the thing that could absolutely destroy everything she's working for. So it's such a wild, weird pairing.
yeah. And I forget if it's here. Or, it might be when she rescues him from prison, but says something about they talk about literally being like the last two people on the planet. Like they're completely on board with destroying the world and just being the last two. That's a weird goal.
Like for her, I get it. For her, I understand it because she wants to destroy humans and like let plants take over the world.
Yeah.
But again, like that's what I'm saying about with Freeze, where they can't decide if he's a villain or just a misunderstood guy who's trying to save his wife. Because and that's why I wish the movie had done a better job of really leaning into the whole like, oh, his heart is frozen thing, because then you would understand like, okay, this is why he doesn't care.
Right.
But it's like, no, you don't want to be the last person alive. You literally want your wife to live. I think it's before his wife is like, before he's told that she's dead. I think they had that conversation, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, he's on board with, you know, salting the earth with her, even as he's still trying to save his wife. Yeah, I don't get that, but I don't know. It's almost like this isn't a very good movie.
No,
I did note. I did note that they inspired something in the Marvel universe here.
Oh,
The training wheels that Robin has.
yes.
Very Tony Stark Spider-Man of
Sure.
Batman to, dangerously so, slam on the emergency brakes
Yeah.
on his motorcycle. But nonetheless, he had like built-in Robin as a stupid child contingency or something,
Right, yeah.
and locks him out of his own bike or something. I don't know. It just made me think of the training wheels protocol that Stark had on Spider-Man's suit.
Right. No, that's a good
in
call.
Infinity War. Yeah.
Yeah.
Poorly executed, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and Batman is the ultimate, like, I mean, he's a genius, so of course he knows, he's already figured out the trajectory that the Batmobile would take and what the motorcycle would take, and he's already, realized, oh, his bike won't make it, and there's enough time and distance for his bike to stop safely. Like, he's already figured all that out because he's Batman.
Yeah, but he's a fly Grayson, so he was going to fly.
Yeah.
And I think Batman had to eject out of his own car anyway.
Well, yeah, because he got hit with the freeze ray, which at that point
Didn't take
I
that
thought,
into account, but
yeah. I thought, oh man, does this Batmobile get destroyed? I had no memory of that, but I've also not watched this a ton of times. But no, it lands, and then he's driving it later. So
yeah, all good.
He probably has about 50 of those Batmobiles underneath that cave. So.
Yeah, he's learned. Yeah. I'm not sure how he apprehends Freeze, really. I mean, he dive bombs into his windshield, and that, and is able to, I guess that knocks him out. But regardless, Freeze goes to Arkham, and then I really like all this stuff with Freeze, like going in. There's Jesse Ventura, there's Rolf Mueller, who's like another big bodybuilder type actor. So I think they're just friends of Arnold Schwarzenegger's. I like the kind of interplay there, them bringing him in with the fridge, and then him trying to beat them up and escape, and then he, once he's outside of the cooling beam or whatever they call it, ice beam.
So funny.
Oh man. But the makeup when he's like, he gets out of the cooling beam, and then the heat, I guess, hits him. He starts crawling around. They do a really good job of the makeup on him and showing how quickly that affects him. So
I like the eyes. I like reading
the
eyes. I do think it's funny that like the second he steps out of the beam, he's like, like,
yeah,
it's so funny. But also like he can do that, but that's how much dramatic effect it is. But if the other guys like step into the beam, nothing happens to them. Like they don't freeze or anything.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah,
that's true.
There's more like neon gangs, in this movie. We get them here when Ivy, she finds her own little secret lair to establish
Turkish baths.
Yeah. That whole thing gets redecorated and that.
Yeah, I thought she would have taken over like an abandoned
a greenhouse or any number of things, but I don't know.
Florist,
I dig. She's wearing this cloak, and she has so many costume changes in this movie. But in this scene, she's wearing this green cloak that might have shown up like briefly once before. It really works. I really dig her costume having a cloak. What? I thought the CGI like plants as she she seeds the earth here that they've watered, and all these plants start to grow, and I think that really holds up. So I did notice that.
I don't like the stuff where she's like making Bane redecorate, and she's like, "What is this floor?" Like it's such a weird. All she wants to do is smash a hole in the floor, and it's a really weird combination of things. Like I don't know what's happening in that moment, but.
Well, just as you get comfortable, we're gonna go Fast and Furious pretty soon.
As
the motorcycle
leading up to
Clockwork Orange. Guys, I don't know. it's
with Barbara. I'm glad she gets her own action scene. But this stage in the movie, it almost feels like this. Like I was saying to Patrick earlier, like this movie is so dense, and I think it's because I don't think that they want to spend any more than 3 minutes on any one scene. There's so many scenes in this movie.
Yeah.
But then we spend quite a bit of time then with this motorcycle race that Barbara's involved in. It's fun enough. I mean, but they're not doing anything that spectacular with like stunts, bike stunts or anything. It's just here to establish that she's got a bit of an edge to her. And I almost, as I was watching it, I thought this should be her introduction scene, because maybe Dick gets involved with motorcycle racing. He meets this girl, and she could still be Commissioner Gordon's daughter at this point. She doesn't have to be connected to Alfred. And maybe that's how she, they meet here, and maybe she saves him from this bike gang kind of situation. And that, I don't know, something like that.
She follows him home and finds out that he's Robin or something. Yeah, I think they made her Alfred's daughter or niece solely so they could skip past needing to explain to her too much, and it's like, she gets this thing, and now she's in the Batcave. Like, I think it seems like they only made her related to Alfred to explain why she's at the house and why she gets in the Batcave. And I don't think you need. I think you're right. And also, like, this scene is so bizarre to me because. So the idea is like, she got caught up in this underground street racing scene in London, and then she got kicked out of school because of it. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, wait, so she can't go to college but also be a street racer? Like, they frown on this. Like, why? Was she doing it on campus? Like, was she doing it instead of going to class? Like, there's no explanation as to why this got her kicked out of school.
Right.
And it's so funny, too, because, like, she sneaks out at one point, and it's like, you didn't even have, like... They're the ones who invited you to stay there. Like, you didn't ask to stay. Like, it's like you didn't even want to be there. And now suddenly you're sneaking. It's like, why did you go live? Nothing can make her motivations make no sense at all. Like, I get the motivation of like, my uncle's a butler and I want to raise the money to free him from having to be a butler because she doesn't understand what's really going on with them. But otherwise, it's like, why is she's like, you're an adult. You don't have to sneak out. You are literally in college. You are allowed to, like, you're visiting a guy who's not your guardian and the two random dudes he works for. You don't have to sneak around.
Yeah. And then when she's talking to Dick about, she wants she lays out her mission, her plan is to make enough money to free Alfred as if he is a slave, like free him from this life of servitude. And then it might be right after this that they kind of run into Bruce and continue this discussion of Bruce adds that, he's dying, he's sick. And I mean, at this point, could we just talk to Alfred and see what Alfred wants to do?
Yeah.
Bruce does. He does ask him when it's just the two of them, are you happy here? Do you regret any of this? And why didn't you tell me? And Alfred tells him that, a gentleman doesn't talk about such things. So that's nice. But at some point, it's like they're all discussing what's best for Alfred without discussing it with Alfred. So
yeah, totally. Yeah, that stuck out to me too as like a thing of like, did she ever ask Alfred if he would want to go free? Because he doesn't want to. To the point where on his deathbed, his biggest concern is we need to have somebody come to replace me at this job. Like
my brother, who's probably also as old as I am, give or take a few years. Yeah, that whole I need to find my brother Wilfred adventure that Alfred is trying to go on, that has always felt weird to me.
Yeah. Especially because he does seem to pretty much just assume that Barbara is going to take over for him. Like, it's like he goes through the effort of building her a suit and everything. Yeah. So it's like, wait, so what was your plan actually with your brother?
Right. It's like you said, this movie, everyone knows, more than they should at this point. Alfred knows that she's, going to find out everything and become a costume crime fighter. So it's just a bit odd.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out why they're still arguing about poison ivy. Like, how long does that linger?
The whole movie.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean
I thought it was like the pheromone dust. It seems like it's lasting for like days.
Well, the problem is that the passage of time in this is really confusing. There's times where it feels like it's all happening over the course of like 1 or 2 days, but then like lots of things happen that seem to take over the course of several nights. But like then there's times like, well, last night, and I'm like, wait, that just happened last night, or that just happened this afternoon? Like, when did this happen? And that's part of the problem with them always filming Gotham in this dark, like dingy nighttime vibe to it. So,
And I like that Freeze gets out because they allow somebody that says that they're his sister just to come in.
Yeah.
No.
somebody's sister who looks just like the lady who attacked the ball we were at when he got captured. Like there's no APBs out for this Poison Ivy lady that literally attacked this ball.
Did she though?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone. I don't think anyone has like out to get her because she wasn't shown to be attacking anybody at the ball.
Oh yeah, she was just seducing everyone. That's true.
And they're all under her powder sway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I thought the powder was gonna fade, and it never did.
Right.
Because I figured after the powder faded, they'd be like, "Wait, what the heck just happened? How did?"
Well, and like they use the rubber lips to block her poison, but they don't do anything to like inoculate themselves for whatever her powder does to them.
And I like that towards the end, like Bruce realizes like we can't help ourselves when we're around her. She's doing something. She's clouding our minds, and let's use that. You know, that's eventually how they end up working. You know, Batman and Robin work together to defeat her. But I like that it does occur to Bruce like we cannot help ourselves when we're around her. You know, that's why we're fighting so much. And I wonder if because the two of them end up getting more doses with this stuff, I think, than anyone. So and Dick especially, like she hits him with that several times. But
yeah, the only one who might get it more than them is Gordon.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that moment of like it's the rare moment in any of these movies of this era of Batman as detective, like Batman piecing together what's happening as a detective. So I'm glad it's in there. I like the moment where he's describing to Dick like what the drug is doing. Like he's like, "Yes, you're right. I cannot stop thinking about her. That's why I'm worried about this." Yeah, that part's great.
There's a sequence when they've busted Freeze out. They're gonna go back to his lair, and he needs diamonds, and then she's gonna get his wife. But they're both going. They're all going back to the lair. But then I forget why, but something tips off Gordon and Batman and Robin to this obvious hideout, and so they are there. And I had no memory of this whole sequence here where Batman and Robin and Gordon and a bunch of police are at the lair, this snow cone place or whatever, and they're cops are dusting for fingerprints. Batman and Robin are searching for clues. They find the wife in the little cryo chamber, and then Freeze and Ivy are like underneath them on the floor. Thought that was interesting.
Yeah, this is the point in the movie where I'm like, I cannot believe this movie is still going on.
I know.
It felt like every scene with it's like the same repetitive thing over and over again of just these set pieces in these weird locations, and then there's a fight that happens on ice or whatever, and then cut, rinse, repeat. I remember the scene only because I remember them finding Nora Freeze, and I remember that Pamela tries to unplug her. But that's it. Like I'm like, and when it was happening, I'm like, are we not even? I'm like, I can't believe we're still. This movie is almost 2 hours long.
I know,
and I could not believe it when I looked at it. I thought this movie was like 90 minutes going into it, and then when
that's what I assumed. Yeah,
and it's just the same scene over and over again, and this is the point where I was really losing my patience with it when I was watching it last night.
I was completely shocked that there's a Batman versus Bane fight here in this this factory, and I've never seen a single meme like using this plus the dialogue from Dark Knight Rises about adopting the darkness or any of that. I'm surprised that I've never seen those two married up. But
I think this movie doesn't really like it. It's not. This movie's not like the Star Wars prequels where the memes were kind of like how people became to love them.
True, yeah.
This movie, like, no one ever really went back to this movie with a fondness, so this movie doesn't really have a ton of meme culture around it.
Yeah. No, that's fair. What happens next? the weird thing is that there's like this interaction, this whole scuffle thing goes down, and then Ivy escapes, and then they tack on the scene where she goes into the Nora Freeze's chamber and then kicks out the power.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
It's
'cause
real
she should've
bizarre
already left.
editing.
Yeah.
Right. So
Like if they had her
Didn't notice that,
hide,
but-
it would have made more sense if she'd hidden and no one knew she was there, and then she comes out of hiding. Great, like they let her inside job this, but instead it's like she somehow leaves,
Yeah.
but then like doubles back around to do this.
I wanted to share my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah.
I put it in the Discord chat
yeah.
Oh, hang on,
This-
let me look at it.
when they're
the,
looking through the files at the lair and they find this photo of Bane and Poison Ivy traveling. It just killed me that I don't know, Bane in that outfit and
trench
the hat
coat with
and-
the hat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I couldn't explain it. It just killed me. I was
That is
dying.
pretty funny.
when I
It's like,
saw
is that just like it looks like Casablanca? Like it looks like
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
oh, it's so funny.
Yeah.
it's like random little bits like that just get me. But
I wish the movie did more of that. Like I think the movie's not good at that. Like
Yeah.
it's like it like tosses these great little things in, but they fall flat elsewhere.
Yeah. So, yeah, that picture just made me laugh so hard
So
while I was
funny.
watching it.
So funny.
Anyway, yeah.
No, I'm glad you shared that. That is funny. I did like that without chemicals, without this pheromone thing, Ivy is able to manipulate Freeze, obviously by saying that Batman and Robin were there and they shut down the thing that's keeping his wife alive, and she's dead now. So now she's got him, right where she wants him. In this is, I did notice. This is where they come up with like them being the last people on
Okay.
Earth. So it is after.
I'm more okay
yeah.
with that then. That makes more
Yeah.
sense then.
Yeah.
Because now he's mad. His vengeance is there. I do still
Right.
wish that they had done the like freeze he's cold hearted because he's freezing. Like I wish they had done that to make him why he's suddenly genocidal. But
Yeah. It amps up the whole like we're heading into the last bit of the movie, so we do need he needs to. I think he's maybe at this point he says Gotham then the world or whatever. So it definitely ramps up the stakes, I guess.
yeah. Because now he no longer just wants to hold it hostage. Now he wants to destroy it all. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, his plan combined with Ivy's plan, they won't work. Like if you freeze
No.
the entire world, then your plants can't grow. So it's
Yeah.
like I don't know what she's trying to get out of him at this point. But
Yeah. Maybe they'll take they'll each take a hemisphere.
yeah,
Seems fair. Yet another function. Like I think this is where they're back in the observatory. I forget what this one's for, but this is, I believe, where Pamela shows back up and gets the keys to from Gordon for the
bat signal. Yeah,
the bat signal. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. There's like 4 different events that are all around this telescope. Like,
Yeah.
they just keep having events for this observatory.
This is kind of where things start to happen a little quicker. Barbara gets into the Batcave. Batman and Robin, I guess she gets in and then is gone, and then there's a Batman and Robin scene about partners and trust. I don't know. I wasn't writing down a lot of notes here.
Yeah, I can't remember what order things happen in.
Well, this is the greatest hacking job ever.
Yeah,
We had, she actually thought Alfred's password was Alfred.
yeah.
Wayne, England.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think his sister's real name, and then
Margaret,
Peg was the
Yeah, and what an insecure password.
yeah. And the password's literally right next to the computer on that picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like,
But Alfred is an old man, so that's actually not that surprising. Like that's
Yeah.
how a lot of old people do things, right?
is he a computer genius or something?
He
somehow?
seems to be pretty tech savvy. I mean, he's
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's one thing, by the way,
Like-
that bums me out. Not bums me out. Bugs me in the movie is that, like, at one point later on, like we're getting ahead, but Robin says to Batgirl, "You're pretty good at this, little girl." It's like suddenly there's this weird, condescending, sexist line.
Yeah.
But like she was
yeah.
introduced to us as a computer science major. Like that was that was her actual course of study at college at like the
Right.
prestigious university. Now he's like, "You're pretty good at this computer stuff, little girl."
Yeah, says the circus boy who I don't know. Does he have any education?
Yeah, it's so wild.
Yeah, we get my favorite part is Alfred's video chat with
Yeah.
her.
His max
It's like-
headroom.
Yeah, it's like, I thought you might find your way down here.
Yeah.
I did make the password Peg after all. And here's a suit I already made that's super tight and fits your body at an uncomfortable rate.
Yeah.
Like, how did he get those measurements? That's all I'm wondering.
Scanners.
It's a really sexual costume for her uncle to have made for her. I think this is like my biggest problem with her being his niece. Is like it has like a thong built into it in the leather,
Right.
and like it has a bat that the bat like goes right along her cleavage. Like it's. I was thinking about it last night. I'm like, as weird as it is to point out how like BDSM Batman and Robin's costumes are in this movie, I think that the Batgirl one being made by her uncle was real creepy for me.
Yeah.
At least they had the, restraint to not put nipples on this costume. So
Oh, they gave her domes instead.
yeah, that's true. You're right.
And then, of course, the thing I hate the most about women in action films is they give her high heels.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Like, how is that functional in any way? I can't even imagine like trying to jog in heels,
Yeah.
let alone flips and kicks and stuff. We saw it in Barbed Wire too.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But at least in Barbed Wire, like she's supposed to look like a dominatrix. Like that's what's so frustrating in this is that it's like, yes, why? That's a big it's a wild thing. They always put female action heroes in these high heeled boots, and it's partly based on the fact that like Wonder Woman was written by a guy who was partially putting like BDSM lifestyle into Wonder Woman as like a symbol, but it's like it became this thing in comics and then in movies where they would always dress women in these very domineering kind of outfits, and they'll give like these very sexual type costumes, and it's just wild that like again it goes back to me thinking this is a nutso suit that her old uncle made for her that he like put these like leather like high heel boots that it's ridiculous.
And didn't she have? I swear, I'm losing my mind when I was watching this, but I swear she had a cowl at one point. But then
when
got,
she's
like,
riding the bike, or
okay,
when she's riding the whatever vehicles they're on. Yeah,
because then it changes to like a Robin style mask, and I got lost.
Yep.
Okay.
And you had that ridiculous moment where she has to tell Bruce that she's Barbara because it's like leaning into the Superman style of thing where the greatest detective in the world can't figure out that the blonde girl who looks just like the blonde girl who's been living at his house is not the blonde girl who's been living at his house.
Oh man.
Bruce, it's me, Barbara. He's like, yeah, I'm Batman. I got it. Like,
it's me, Barbara. Like, I think it was the line delivery too. It was awful. It was just so weird.
It's so. I'm like, really? That's the take you went with, huh? Sometimes these movies, even some of my favorite movies, there's like one line where I'm like, that's the take you went with, huh? You didn't think you could redo this one, or that was the best one you got that day, huh?
Well, in all of her dialogue is I don't know if she was told to deliver all of her lines with the kind of that pouty baby doll kind of quality that she has in this movie, especially.
Oh, I bet she was, because this is coming off of Clueless, and they probably like wanted her to try to play it like Cher. Like it works in Clueless because Cher is supposed to be a spoiled teenager in Beverly Hills.
Yeah,
and the whole premise of the movie is like, what if this person like did actually have like heart and like a rich inner life, but you don't know it because she portrays herself as this socialite, right? But this movie, it's like, no, this is not supposed to be that same character. And I don't know if that's what she was told that, or that's just the only thing that Alicia Silverstone could do. I don't know, but I think I've seen other stuff where she's not doing this. So
I'm trying to go back, but I remember when this came out that she took a lot of heat for people saying she looked chunky or fat or something.
Yeah, I remember
and
that.
now I'm like, how is that possible? That suit she's in is like the most slim. Like I don't see it. I don't know where that came from.
There were articles written about her.
Yeah.
I think saying fat girl.
I mean,
it's
brutal,
insane.
but I don't get it.
No, and she has like a baby face, sort of like.
Sure.
But no, I mean, she's.
I just
in
never
great
understood
shape.
that, but I remembered it distinctly.
Yeah, she did not have an easy time, with this. People were
Yeah.
obviously saying things like that to her, but no one is talking about, Robin or Arnold or whatever.
Or Clooney, like Dad bod Clooney, yeah.
Yeah.
It was just something I remembered after
Yeah.
watching it, and I was like, I don't understand why that was a thing, because she looks like a super attractive actor lady.
Right. Yeah.
There's nothing I don't get where it came from, because I don't see anything wrong with what's going on, or
Yeah.
even if there was, what the frick is the big deal?
I'm so grateful this movie came out before the heyday of internet bile,
yeah.
because it's a bad movie and there's a lot of things that are wrong with it. But this movie came out nowadays. The number one thing people would hate about it is that they shoved Batgirl into it, and as much as she already got a lot of abuse for this movie, I think it's one of the reasons why she kind of shied away from acting, moving on from it.
Yeah.
I think this would have the level of online harassment that she would have gotten if this movie came out nowadays is unfathomable. I'm so glad.
Yeah, I just never understood it, and probably never will. But
yeah, it's
I
just
remember that.
Just sexism,
Yeah.
I mean, she's in a not too hidden suit.
It's not revealing. I mean, it's not like
it's skin
cleavage.
tight. I mean, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She seems okay. I don't know.
No, I don't get it either.
I mean, it's not she's unable to move, or I don't understand where it impacted her performance as to why people came to.
It didn't at all. This is a totally irrational thing. It's just essentially they're thinking of the one thing they can say to tear her down, and then everyone starts mimicking off of each other and moving into it, because she was known for being very attractive because she was in this movie where she played this hot young blonde, and so now it's well, how are we gonna tear her down? Well, we're gonna attack her looks.
That's freaking insane. Okay, anyway, it was just something that came up in my notes when I was watching it. I was I don't understand where that came from.
Right. Do you want to go to the freeze in the observatory? He's kind of setting up his little freeze ray sort of thing. He does.
I wanted to touch on one other thing.
Oh yeah.
Why does Poison Ivy get eaten by her own fly trap?
Yes.
I mean, I know she doesn't really get eaten, but she gets trapped by it.
That bugs me too. I don't get why.
I didn't understand that.
It happens a few times in different comic book movies, and it's something I don't care for, but I don't think you should ever be able to... A villain should not be a victim of their own powers, because she should be able to control plants, and she does, but yeah, she shouldn't then be eaten by a plant. Like in the Ang Lee Hulk, it's the villain absorbs power, so how do we defeat them? We give them more power. I think they do the same thing with Electro. He feeds off electricity. Well, let's overload him with electricity. That always bugs me.
I don't like it either.
So I don't have a good explanation for why her plant would suddenly treat her like it was anyone that fell into it.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if I missed something.
It's a lame way to get her incapacitated, I guess. Yeah.
I figured they'd have bat pesticides or something to spray her, or something
right,
cheesy like that.
I just found a bunch of articles from a couple years ago looking back on the whole fat girl backlash situation, and
oh yeah,
so wild. Sorry, I looked it up while you're talking about it, but yeah, the Ivy thing with the plant bugs me, and I hate that that's how she's defeated too. I think it's such a weird thing to be the thing that gets her.
I like it if it's their ambition that gets the best of them, and their reach exceeds their grasp, sort of thing, and they get their comeuppance, that way. But it doesn't work if it's like this, where that plant should, based on what I know from Ivy in the animated series, and that's the only frame of reference I have for Ivy at this point when I'm watching this movie. Her plants think of her like their mother. She is, they're bonded.
Mother.
So yeah, there's no way that her plants would turn on her.
Yeah,
So-
it's a ridiculous thing that happens, and it's like such a minor thing too. It's just that the thing
Yeah.
closes, it doesn't devour her. So it's like, why is this the end of her
Right.
as a villain? Like, even if it was like, if the plant automatically triggers like the way that like a fly trap
Sure.
does, but she
Yeah.
also has been sitting in it this whole time, so it's not like that would suddenly happen.
Right.
So,
Yeah. It doesn't make sense. Yeah.
oh wait, I'm looking at a picture up close now of Silverstone's suit, and there are a little bit of nipples happening here.
Really?
Like they're not as defined, but they
Yeah.
definitely like it's designed to look like her actual nipples are pushing through the suit from behind, which is ridiculous.
Oh, okay.
Like that
Oh,
might even be
wow.
like the suit not leaving things up to the imagination, but it does feel like either do it on the suit or cover them up with like tape so that doesn't happen, because it does feel
Yeah.
very strangely like. And then again, the way that the bat wings like wrap around her boobs is such a wild. What a terrible costume!
Oh,
It's like
yeah,
everything
yeah.
that's good about the Robin costume is bad about her costume.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of
Yeah.
Ivy being defeated by plants. It's definitely a ridiculous thing to
Yeah.
do to her.
And now we get some new vehicle action as we go
Yeah.
to Mr. Freeze.
I did note, like, when Freeze was setting up his thing and he freezes the assistants, the two I
Mhm.
talked about earlier. And so I did write down like what time that happened, because they've established like 11 minutes. You
No.
have 11 minutes to thaw people. So I did write down like at 1:34 they get
That's
frozen.
cool, Darren.
So
Yeah.
I'll check back in once they get thawed. So
The movie does
but-
play very fast and loose with biology here, and like
Yeah.
how
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
how much being frozen and also like just adding some heat to being frozen is enough to bring you back, and like to where you're fine, able to walk around like nothing happened a few moments later.
Right. Yeah. And then I don't get this. Maybe you can help me understand this. But Freeze has Bane setting up bombs around the observatory, and I don't get why he wants to destroy his weapon. Like, you think you'd want to use this thing multiple times, or just in
To freeze the
case.
entire planet. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get this. So
One thing that I like that's really stupid here, though, is every time Bane sets a bomb down, he goes,
Yeah.
bomb! Like, it's so...
Yeah.
Like, I don't like that it's Bane doing it, but I do think it's hilarious to have a villain who just, bomb,
yeah.
bomb! Like, it's so dumb.
Yeah, he's very Frankensteinish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Man.
Or sorry, Frankenstein's a monster.
There you
Yeah,
go.
that
Yeah,
coming after
actually,
me.
yeah. What else? I wondered, like, at this point, the whole observatory starts to get frozen, and based on the rules that this movie sets up, Freeze uses his freeze ray obviously to weaken things. They tried to do it or that's how they get him out of jail. That's how he drove through that statue in that like chase with the Batmobile. Like, he freezes something and he drives through it. So based on those rules, this whole like statue that's holding up this observatory should crumble. Like, there's no way this thing should be able to hold up this weight of the observatory. Just a little observation there.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I've given up on the movie. So
Yeah. Well, it's a
Yeah,
perfect
at this point.
it's a perfect time to give up, because then the action figure, like the vehicles roll in, and I hate these things. Like, she's on a bike, that's totally fine. Robin's driving it looks like a horseshoe
like
crab
a fan boat.
fan,
Yeah.
with a fan thing, and then Batman's in like I think it's called a skiff. They're all terrible.
Yeah, it's 100% like, look at these toys that we got.
Yeah. And they're all decked out in brand new costumes, all silver and
Yeah. It comes with the set.
yeah. I don't hate the look of Batman in the silver and a gray costume. He's got this
Yeah, it's
big
not bad.
bat symbol that is real big on his chest. That I kind of dig that. And at 11 minutes exactly, just about, it's like 1:45, the scientists Batman does start to thaw out the scientists. So they, at least in the editing department, they stuck to the 11-minute
Wow.
thing. Yeah, I was impressed.
I had no hope for that.
Yeah. And then, like, the attack on the observatory, it's just, it's just a bunch of grappling hook,
Yeah.
swinging around. They do so many. They shoot out so many of these grappling hooks that it's just.
The only thing I remember is the scientists constantly being in danger.
Oh sure.
While hanging on to that. Like, that's all I can remember.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's some fighting, between Bane and Batman, or Freeze and Batman. Bane pops up to hassle Batgirl and Robin, and they dispatch him the way Bane is always dispatched with the, his vulnerable tubes.
Yeah.
So
It's also wild this movie opened with a sequence of the villain escaping in a rocket and the two heroes surfing down to Earth on doors, and then like nothing heightens past that ever in the movie. Like
That's true.
like usually you save a big move like that for the climax, but this one's like, no, we got it right away in the very beginning.
that is weird. Why didn't they keep the rocket, as a threat to Gotham, save that for the ending? That's interesting.
Yeah, or do something bigger at the ending instead of it just being like, let's turn this computer on and that'll solve everything.
Yeah, the whole thing with the satellites and the lasers destroyed, but now we can still use the satellites to thaw out Gotham. All that stuff is
a concentrated sunbeam of pure sun energy beaming down to the Earth, and that'll be totally fine. It won't be a problem for anyone. The thing that the Bond villain uses at the end of the one of one of the Pierce Brosnan Bond movies is now the thing that's going to save the world.
Yeah, Icarus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, I mean, Batman historically, I guess, has had issues with creating stuff that's problematic. Like they have the cell phone thing in the Nolan Batman.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. In Dark Knight, yeah.
Yeah.
The the nanny state thing, yeah.
Yeah. And this is basically a death ray that Batman has. Yeah, I just hated this whole ending.
Yeah, there's.
And now I hate it even more after the explanation that he's going to do what should have been done long ago.
Sure.
Yeah.
And provide him with the research. Facility.
But then there's that weird scene where they put him in the cell with Ivy and he threatens to kill her. I'm like, wait, that's
in the suit. Yeah.
It's like, why would Arkham have let him, like, okay, we're going to give you the ability to save your wife, but we're also going to let you just taunt random other prisoners, especially the ones you have a vengeance against. Like,
right.
I'm your new cell. And also, like, my favorite thing about that scene is, like, he's just been standing in this corner with the suit off this whole time, waiting for her to say the right, like, okay, I'm going to come in when my moment tells me to, but not until then. It's very much like the thing in Rogue One where Darth Vader turns off his breathing machine and then turns it on to, like, it's like that weird
for stealth. Yeah,
it's a thing. It's like, how long has he been in this corner with the light off, waiting for the right moment to then go, I'm your new cellmate. And there's also this scene now too with Alfred, not with Alfred, with Barbara, where Bruce is suddenly like, now you're going back to school, young lady. It's like, she's not your kid, first of all. Second of all, you've never cared about her and her school until now. And third of all, she was literally kicked out of school, so she can't just go back to school. Like, she didn't run away from school. She didn't drop out. She was kicked out of school.
Right.
Yeah.
So weird.
And there was not a Batman movie for like another decade after this.
Right. What else? I'm pretty tapped on my notes. I mean, I like that there's Alfred this cure
survived.
comes. What's that?
No, I was just gonna say what you're gonna say.
Oh, that the cure comes from Freeze, and he's got it ready to go right on him. That's
so funny. That's
but
just like.
I like that there's a little bit of a mutual respect there at the very end between Batman and Freeze. Like, he's not an evil guy, I guess, but yeah.
But I just think the movie doesn't earn it, because up until then he's always chosen evil, even when, like, he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's frustrating. Is like, suddenly you have him being reasonable. Like, I learned a second ago that you didn't actually kill my wife, and now I'm totally on your side. Like,
yeah. I don't have anything else.
The recaps.
We get Bat Family Begins. I kind of like the way they all, like, throw hands in and go team kind of thing. But
partners. Random girl that just joined us.
Yeah.
Robin's like, what the hell, man? It took me like 2 movies to get this.
Yeah. I had to earn this trust.
Bruce is like, you wanted me to trust people, yeah, but not right away.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
it's
And
wild.
then they run off together.
Yeah. This movie does give us something that's truly great, which is the Smashing Pumpkins song here that starts
Yeah.
the credits.
Yeah.
So
That
I was
doesn't
like, what
fit
the
at
hell?
all the tone of the movie.
no, not at all.
Can you imagine this movie had also ended with like Nirvana? like the
Oh,
Batman.
man.
Something in the way.
Oh,
Yeah, that threw me off. I was like, whoa, tonal shift. All right.
Yeah. Oh, it's so funny. I did like that. I knew this movie was from an era where we didn't have post credits scenes and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
when it was done, I could just turn it off and be done with
Yeah.
it.
That is a perk.
yeah.
Yeah. Although I do like we kind of moved on from it pretty fast. One of my favorite Ivy lines in the whole movie is where she's really nailing her Mid-Atlantic accent. Is when she's like I told Lady Freeze when I pulled the plug, this is a one-woman show. Like that line has lived rent-free in my head for my entire life. I don't know why, but like whenever I'm like trying to do a Poison Ivy impression, I always do that line first. But yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm much
I mean,
more
that
in the
is the
school
line
of
of
loving
the-
Isn't it? It's like it's just like her. I'm a villain kind of line.
Yeah.
As I told Lady Freeze when I pulled the plug, this is a one woman show. So she's like really leaning into her Katharine Hepburn kind of
For sure.
mentality there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
Man.
all right.
yeah.
Um,
Definitely more in the school of fandom of the animated series Poison Ivy, or the Harley Quinn animated series Poison Ivy, where she's a little more mellow and a little more like she's a little more Daria-esque. So
Yeah. Let's do our
Oh, do we have to?
I don't know. Our most heroic, most villainous little segment here. Does anybody have anything for most heroic?
I believe there's a hero in all of us
I just finally know what I have to do.
that keeps us honest,
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
gives us strength,
You will give the people of Earth an ideal to strive towards.
makes us noble.
And I know in my heart that it's right.
I like when they save Alfred. Like how about that?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah. Their most heroic thing is to save Alfred and also help the villain save his wife's life.
Yeah.
I just came up with one that I'm gonna give it to Alfred for being there for Bruce, but then also still being able to teach Bruce, like, you gotta, it is your way or the highway. You need to start to trust people, and just broadening his mind a little bit. So
Yeah,
give it to
that's fair.
Alfred.
I think I'll give mine to Mr. Freeze for giving them the drugs to save Alfred's life because I think like
Sure.
I think it's like a good a face turn. So I'll take
Yeah.
that.
Patrick?
Not much left.
No.
I guess Robin saving Barbara at the motorcycle race somehow with his foot.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know. I don't know. Robin did a lot of saving.
He got
saved Batman
saved
in the
too, though.
shuttle,
He,
and he got saved after he
Yeah,
got
that's
turned into a
partnership.
pickle.
yeah,
Yeah, nothing really stood out as heroic, honestly.
sure. And sometimes, yeah,
Right.
there's not, I mean, obviously they saved the day, but that's an
Yeah,
all
a bunch
these-
of times.
Yeah, but it didn't even
but,
feel like it.
Yeah,
It feel like they created a worse scenario where the sun can be weaponized.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
I don't know how great that is.
sure.
Maybe we could put this positive spin on it is they realized a very exploitable flaw in this expensive observatory they just built and maybe they can stop it before now it becomes a bigger thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Any standouts for villainous?
This planet, these people, they are nothing to me.
You were made to be ruled.
The universe is power. Pure, unstoppable power. Come to me, son of Jor-El. Kneel before Zod. And I am that force. I am that power.
In the end, you will always kneel.
Kneel before your master.
I think your favorite line right there is the most villainous.
Yeah, when Ivy pulls the
Yeah.
plug on Frieza's wife, I was gonna say I can't remember her name now. The woman who's like the gossip reporter. Oh, Gossip Gertie. I think when she's like mean girling Poison Ivy, like, you must be new in town. In this town, we can save. Like, it's just weird to be like bullying this new person you don't know and be like, you're trying to save the world. Well, we don't need you to save the world because Batman and Robin save us. Okay, like
even from plants and flowers.
Yeah, that's maybe my most villainous moment is this woman just being kind of a petty gossip monger.
And that's Elizabeth Sanders. She is the wife of Bob Kane. Was
wow.
You know, the wife of Bob Kane, co-creator of Batman.
Oh, good for her.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's the obvious one is the Ivy trying to kill Nora for no reason. I don't care for the jealousy angle. They don't establish enough that she wants to be with Freeze romantically. Like, I don't know where this jealousy of like. I don't know. Obviously, she wants to be able to manipulate him, so I get that, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think I cut out again. It's weird because my internet's back. Oh, my internet. Here's what happened. My internet came back. So last thing I heard you say was something about Coke.
Coke.
Or you said like Elizabeth Gary is Bob Kane's wife, and then
co-creator of.
Oh, co-creator.
Yeah, okay.
I literally thought you said Coke, and then like making like some sort of cocaine joke, and then I didn't realize that you. Okay. I will say I think I liked Gossip Gertie a lot better in Batman Forever. I think she was more I think she was more fun in that one. This one she's kind of just mean girls for a second. We don't really get
she's
much
meaner. Yeah, she's mean in this one. Yeah.
And then she just has that whole like her only other line of dialogue is laying into that Elle McPherson storyline that doesn't go anywhere. So I think that's part of why I think I liked her a lot more in Batman Forever.
Yeah. I think you the only thing you missed was me talking about the my villainous moment, which is I think yours as well. The Ivy trying to take out Nora, and then that like why do we need this jealousy angle of Ivy being jealous of Nora? That's not necessary. So
I don't like that they felt like they had to make Freeze and Ivy like somewhat even remotely romantic as a couple. Like, I don't like that she has like an attraction to Freeze. I think it's fine if these two villains just team up because they have like similar ideas or they can work together and they know they're stronger together than against Batman and Robin. Like, we don't need to have the Riddler be romantic with Two-Face. So why do we have to have Ivy be romantic with Mr. Freeze because one's a man and one's a woman? Like, it's such a weird 80s or 90s heteronormativity kind of thing happening, which is so this movie wants so hard to have no one think anybody's gay that they like stress like a weird romantic plot that doesn't need to be there. Also, by the way, Elizabeth Sanders apparently also falls into that club of someone who played a different character in a different movie, because in Batman Returns she's just Gothamite number 4.
That's right. Yeah, she's like reading a newspaper article about Penguin.
Yeah, so I think in that movie she was just like a cameo for someone like connected, but then they gave her an actual role in the next movie.
Yeah. Patrick, did you have a villainous anything to throw in?
Oh, I'll just throw it in. When he freezes that guy that was bringing him the newspaper, I thought that was uncalled for.
Yeah. Is that Frosty that he freezes? Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was him or not.
Yeah.
I think it is him because he had said, like, oh, we need diamonds. And then Frosty's like, oh, I found out what is going to be diamonds. And he's like, don't talk during the movie.
That was just uncalled for.
Yeah. And then he finds the paper and, like, realizes what, like, come on, man. Then unfreeze him. Now you get why he was in there. He was helping you out.
Yeah. No. Yeah. As far as I know, he's still frozen there.
Well, he's already past that 12-minute window, so.
Yeah.
Right. Well, let's rate it. Let's go around and you can expand on like why you feel that way. But yeah,
what's your rating system?
Just out of 5.
Okay. I'd give it a 2. I guess like it maybe a 1.5. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's so many things that just don't come together at all. Like like you said, there's some stuff that's good about it. Like I do think, like you're right, that the Robin costume was a nice like move towards the Nightwing. I do like the attempt at doing a Bat family story. I like that. I like Uma as Ivy, but yeah, it's it's just taking in a script from a movie that already got made and then shoving a bunch of new stuff into it and thinking it's going to work exactly the same way, and it doesn't. And it's just like, it's just a mess. So I think I'll give it a 2 because I've definitely seen worse movies, but boy, you definitely get watching this movie why they didn't make another Batman movie for a long time.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. I feel like a 2 is fine for this one. I had more fun this time than I know the last time I watched it. I've not watched this one a ton, and most of the times it's never been very enjoyable. But I did find myself enjoying it for the most part this time around. But still, just the lows are enough to keep it around a 2 for me. But I found myself really liking Clooney in this movie, and like I said, Arnold. So
yeah,
enough to make it fun. Yeah. So Patrick, how about you?
I'm right there. Yeah. 2.
Right on.
I just find it fun to look at. Like, it's not boring to look at because there's always something weird going on.
Yeah.
And visually, it's like eye-catching, even if it's not the best. So, like, it keeps my attention visually. I just wish it could have kept, the plot along with that. But, I mean, it's hard to go down to a 1 because I know where that territory is. So I think I'm just going to stick with a 2. It's a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best thing I can say about it.
Yeah. I feel like it's not bad enough to where it's like fun that it's bad. Like that's the problem. Like
right.
There's some movies that are really bad where like the badness almost like adds to the enjoyment of watching it, like a Troll 2 or something along those lines. But this just like it felt like a chore after a while. Like I was like definitely watching the clock. Like when's this going to be done with? Because I'm so done with this movie at this point.
I kept pausing it to go take little breaks, and it's for a 2-hour movie. It feels like a 5-hour movie.
Yeah, it definitely felt like I was doing this for a job. Like I was like, it says something that I've only revisited it when I have to for content. Like it's not a movie that I'm like excited to go back to ever. Whereas like there's like I will watch any Star Wars movie if you want. Like, if it's on or it's available, I'm happy to rewatch any Star Wars movie, even the ones that aren't like the best ones. But like I think this might be the only Batman movie that I would probably have to begrudgingly watch again after this experience.
Well, it's so funny because heading into this, I thought, man, maybe she just really likes this movie. Maybe this is like a nostalgia thing for her, the way like Forever is for me. So I was kind of worried, like coming into it, like I don't want to like trash something that you love.
I wish I'd known that, and I could have trolled you so badly, like coming in and just like been like, well, I just think that people really overlook, because I have met people who have a strange love for this movie and they think it's underrated, and I'm like, what about it do you think? And like the thing is, the things they'll say aren't things that I disagree with per se.
Sure,
I just don't think they actually work in execution. Like I think the reason why I gave it a 2 over a 1 is I think it's extremely ambitious at times, but it's also extremely lazy at times. And like I think the thing we've talked about over and over again about the way it's just a mapping of the previous film is one of the absolute laziest things about it. Like, can you imagine if they had put as much work into the script for this movie as they did for all the like visuals? Like if any of that effort had been into the writing. Who wrote this movie? I'm gonna look it up real quick. Like who actually wrote?
It might
was it just
be
cocaine?
I know Akiva Goldsman, I think, did the previous one. I'm assuming.
I can't believe this man got paid for this movie. Like literally, I can't believe he turned in this script and they go, "Wait, this is just your last movie." Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
and this is the guy running Star Trek now. Cool. All right, that's fun.
Oh yeah. I feel like I heard something that the time between Forever and this one, the studio wanted it out so fast that there was no time to really prepare, so they were just instantly in go mode. So that could be part of it. That's why it's not that much different from Forever. But
honestly, too, like as much as I'm never shy about having a reason to dunk on Akiva Goldsman, but I also will say that I would not be surprised if this movie was almost written by studio notes and that's it. Like,
sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if he like there's definitely a lot of these big budget studio films that are just cranked out. Yeah. So you're probably right about that, but it's still just like I wish that they had just given them like an extra year to make it. Like,
yeah, but
they didn't. So instead
they didn't. And
so if they imagine if they had given this movie like a 3-year window between the last movie and this one, we might have had like a pretty like if they did like a new Batman movie every 3 years, they might have never had a break in the Batman franchise, and they could have kept making these movies and kept making money off them over the course of like a decade and a half. And instead, it destroyed the franchise so badly that not only did not make Batman movies for a while, but it took like 5 more years to get like a good comic book movie going again. So
yeah,
I guess. Well, this came out in '97.
Yeah.
I think X-Men came out in 2000. And you had
2000, yeah.
I think Spider-Man was like 2001, 2002. Because I know they had to edit Spider-Man to take out 9/11, the World Trade Center. So that must have been 2001.
2002.
Yeah, 2002.
Yeah.
I remember that there was like a trailer for it where he caught
Yeah.
he had a web between the 2 towers, and they caught the helicopter there, and they had to drop that trailer. I think I always give Blade the credit for being the movie that kind of saved comic book movies and kind of like ushered in the new era of modern comic book films. But
sure,
I think Blade's the movie that showed Marvel that like their properties could work as comic book movies. So
yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that one. But speaking of looking forward to things, we have you on schedule for another movie from '98 that you actually brought to this list, Dark City.
Yes, Dark City is actually. I wasn't sure if I was. You told me you were going to do it, but I wasn't sure if I was actually scheduled to be on it or not. Dark City is one of my favorite movies of that era. I think it's extremely underrated, so I'm looking forward to talking about that one. That one I'll have a lot more positive things to say about.
Right on. It'll be a first time for me. So.
Oh, cool! I'm hoping you like it. Yeah, it's an Alex Proyas film. It's his movie After the Crow. It's a very good aesthetic movie. It's got some interesting stuff to it. Yeah, I almost like, I don't want to say anything about it. I'm glad if you're going into it having not seen it, I hope you don't know anything about it going into it and that it can be like unfolding for you.
Yeah. I remember seeing a trailer for it for some movie that I would watch in this era. It was always like on VHS, the trailer for this would come on, for Dark City would come on. I forget what it was for. I don't know.
It's a good trailer.
Yeah. But Riley, tell us where people can find you, what you have going on. I know you got some cool stuff to talk about.
Yeah, you can find me. Well, first of all, you can find me on Twitter at Riley J. Silverman and on Instagram at Riley Silverman. I got my Instagram I hacked about a month ago, but I finally got it back.
Oh,
so I have that. So that's there. But yeah, Riley Silverman Instagram. You can Riley Silverman. RileySilverman.com is probably the best like central place to find all my stuff. But the big thing that I have coming up is that later on this summer, early this fall, I have my first Star Wars book is coming out. I wrote a book for Star Wars, a licensed book. It's an illustrated guide to the planet of Tatooine, and it is a nitty gritty it's an all ages book. So I shouldn't say gritty, but it's like a major zoom in on all the locations on the planet of Tatooine and a big breakdown of all the events that have played out on those movies up from the prequels onward, and then also like things that have happened in the planet's past that are canonically part of the past. It goes through the prequels, it goes through the Clone Wars, it goes through Rebels, it goes through all of the original trilogy, it goes to the sequel trilogy. But what's also really fun about it is they let me go into comic books and canon novels and things like that. So it really ties a lot of the stories together. I think the latest thing that I got in there was one thing from early on with Boba Fett. My editor was able to slip one thing in there, but most of it goes up through the end of Mandalorian season 2 because I wrote the book last summer. So unfortunately, I was not able to get all this new Obi-Wan stuff in there and all the stuff that happened on Boba Fett. But which is a bummer because it's a book for kids, and I would have loved to have stuck those the mods in there. I think those would be pretty kid friendly for a book. But it's still I'm really proud of it. It's a really fun book. And so I think people will really enjoy it. It's a really good trip down memory lane for people who are nostalgic for Star Wars stories, but also a nice primer for people who are introducing their kids to the stuff, and they can kind of go like, oh yeah, look at this place. This is what happened here. And the artwork is really cute and fun. So the book is called Exploring Tatooine, an Illustrated Guide. And the artwork was done by a group called Studio Moody. And it's like a South African art collective. And
oh, nice.
Yeah, and so I'm really excited about it. It was kind of mind blowing moment to have my first view of the cover and realizing that my name was like 2 inches away from Luke Skywalker, and tell, if I could tell my childhood self that that's what was going to happen in my adult life, I don't think she would have believed it. And, but yeah, it's been quite a wild year of mine. So
right on.
Yeah, very awesome.
Yeah.
And I know what Tatooine is, I think. Is that the planet that Luke's stuck on?
Yeah, well, so if there's a bright center of the universe,
there you
it's the planet that it's farthest from.
Okay. See, I'm getting there.
Yeah.
Are
you legit like a Star Wars, like not like you're not a Star Wars person at all?
I enjoy looking, like watching it, but like I haven't gotten like deep into it. Like when we watched it for this, he knew the name of the trash compactor monster, and I was like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Dianaga or whatever it's pronounced. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I get it from just watching it, but I haven't ever really delved into.
It's not a part of your life.
Yeah.
I mean,
so I'm aware of it and have it from like a noob standpoint that I understand Star Wars, but I like it. I just haven't, I'm not learning how to speak alien languages or anything like that, like Star Trek folks with Klingon.
Yeah.
Like,
there's a running
gotten
gag
into
with
that
Star
level.
Wars that Tatooine is where literally everything happens because a lot of storylines take place in Tatooine. I think of Tatooine as sort of like the unofficial homeworld of Star Wars. But I also, I obviously I have skin in the game because I wrote a book about it, but I actually I do push back on the jokes about Tatooine being the place where everything happens, because my theory of storytelling is that story grows from story. And so if things happen on Tatooine that lay seeds for future stories, and then someone who's going to tell stories about those same characters, they're going to go back to the places where those stories were last left, or where things like people were making fun of Boba Fett for happening on Tatooine, but it's like, last time we saw Boba Fett, he was being eaten by a monster on Tatooine. So if you're going to pick up from what happened to him after that, that's where he's going to be at. Sorry. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And then, like, if I'm on when we do Phantom Menace, then we can talk more about Tatooine's origins and with Anakin Skywalker, and why him being Tatooine makes perfect sense thematically when you think about why Luke Skywalker is on Tatooine. So
yeah, that's right. You're going to be back for Phantom Menace.
Yeah. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, me too. We got a lot of stuff to cover between now and then, but and speaking of, I guess next we will be back with Men in Black.
Oh wow!
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
definitely a step up from this movie.
A little bit, yeah.
I do want to say about earlier, by the way, because you mentioned Austin Powers before I came on the mic, and I do think a lot of Austin Powers weirdly holds up. Like, I think it's I think the first one especially, there's a lot of really funny little there's some really smart gags in that first movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole thing where he's like stuck in the hallway on the vehicle and trying to like negotiate, like that thing, that's still funny
for sure.
Yeah.
No, I think we generally found it to hold up. What did we give it? Almost a high 4.5.
Okay.
I think it's fair. I think it lasted for a reason. I think that obviously the sequels had diminishing returns, especially because the second one I thought was hilarious when I saw it at that right age. But then when I rewatched it later, I'm like, oh, this is mostly the same jokes from the first movie rehashed. Like they were like, we got it right one time, let's do it again. Which is I think. Yep. I know we're wrapping up, but I think it's generally a flaw with sequels. I think that a lot of times comedies shouldn't have sequels, because I think that sequels tend to just rehash what was funny about the first one, or like sequels. I think also a comedy, by its nature, like things should be resolved at the end of the comedy. And so if you're making a second movie and now you have to raise the stakes, if you just rehash the stakes from the first movie, it really can like deflate, because like we already got those stakes, we already got the characters to a new place at the end. And so when you do a sequel, it's kind of hard to be like, okay, so we just put the characters exactly back where they were before and put them to the exact same journey again. So yeah,
well, I think we basically added it to the list because we had covered all of the James Bond movies, leading up to it. So it was like, well, let's put Austin Powers in here too. And I was worried about it going into it, like, how are we really gonna review a comedy? But I mean, we had fun with it. So
I think it's a very worthy inclusion for what you're doing. I mean, there's definitely heroic moments and villainous moments, and I think it's a send up not only of James Bond, but like a whole era of spy movies. So I think it was probably really fun to cover. So
thing that came to mind with comedies is Hangover. Like, they should have never made 3 of those.
Well, and like
they literally rehashed it.
I have a lot to say about Hangover, so I will about the second and third one especially. So I will not get into that now because we're trying to wrap up. Because I could probably talk for 20 minutes about what I think is wrong about why they made those. But that's a almost perfect example I'm talking about of a sequel that like 100% like trying to rehash the previous movie and just raising the stakes doesn't work. So like I think it only works. I mean I think most people would disagree if I say like it works for Ghostbusters 2 because I think most people don't think of that as a movie that worked. But I think the reason why the sequel passes is because Harold Ramis's writing is so good that there's enough funny jokes in the second movie that like even though the movie's kind of a little bit weak, there's enough funny things that are new in that movie. There's like just some of my favorite lines in Ghostbusters are in the second movie. Like I had part of a slinky, I straightened it, and all the stuff with Janos is like so funny. Like when Janos just stops a woman and says like, "Everything you're doing is bad. I want you to know this." It makes me laugh so hard.
Man.
Yeah. All right, that was a weird tangent I went down. Sorry, I have ADHD.
No worries.
But I will wrap up. I will stop talking about movies that aren't the movies we're talking about.
I do want to, I guess, kind of. I threw this out on our Facebook group, the Real Comic Heroes League of Citizens, because I was worried about this episode just being just trashing it. So I wanted to end with some positivity. So I said like, hey, anyone have anything you want to plug? Just shout outs, whatever, just share them. And so listener Jeff, he suggested that I add a reminder about the Movies by Minutes convention kind of get together that is in Philly this year on August 6th. So the link to tickets will be in the show notes for this episode. So it's just a bunch of Movies by Minutes folks getting together for a little get together we like to have every year. Rob O'Connor says, "Hey guys, if you're offering free publicity, I'd love a shout out for the All-Star Superfan podcast. We cover pretty much everything Superman related, from the comics, the movies, the various TV shows, even more obscure ones, and even stuff as far back as the radio show. So that sounds pretty cool." Lastly, Niall McGowan, host of Bat Minute. He wanted to plug something, but he just couldn't remember what if he had anything relevant to plug for this episode. So hopefully it'll come to him. But I think that's probably going to do it for this one. Patrick, you got anything else?
No, I think I've been beaten into submission.
Yeah. Oh,
good.
man. Yeah. Hey, we made it.
As I told
We
Patrick
did.
when I pulled the plug, this is a one-host show.
Oh, good gravy. I wish somebody pulled the plug on me watching this movie.
I mean, I did have the plug pulled multiple times during this recording, but I kept going anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, Riley, thank you so much for coming on the show. I was super excited to get you, on the show. I'm such a big fan of you being on Star Wars Minute. I love your weeks with Alex and Pete. So really
thank you.
a treat to get you on here.
Thank
So,
you. I love doing that show. I'm a big fan of doing it. Those guys are great. So
yeah,
this was really fun too. I'm looking forward to coming back for some future movies. So
awesome.
hopefully movies that I like a little better than this movie.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much I disliked this movie until I watched it again this time. I think I had fun with it last time I watched it, and this time I was like, I need Uma. And if Uma wasn't on screen, I was unhappy the entire time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, until next time, never forget that Batman still owes Gotham $7 million.
We work for a highly funded yet unofficial government agency.
We'll take it from here.
Who the hell are you?
INS Division 6.
There is no Division 6.
Our mission is to monitor extraterrestrial activity on Earth.
You're all here because you're the best of the best, and we're looking for one of you.
Hey. What's up?
I want to get some coffee. You want some coffee?
No, thank you. I'm fine.
You guys get along all right?
All right, I'm in.
From now on, you will have no identifying marks of any kind. You are no longer part of the system. We are the Men in Black.
You know what the difference is between you and me? I make this look good.
Series 4 deatomizer.
That's what I'm talking about.
Noisy cricket.
I feel like I'm gonna break this damn thing.
Oh, it gets better.
Dad, we have a bug. Unlimited technology from the whole universe, and we cruise around in a Ford POS. Fasten your seatbelt. See, now we got to work on your people skills.
Columbia Pictures and Amblin Entertainment present.
I knew it. This is an alien, and you guys are from some government agency trying to keep it under wraps.
Nah.
Tommy Lee Jones.
I'm gonna count to 3.
He'll do it, Jeeves.
1.
I'm telling you, that man does not look stable.
2.
He's always crazy. Why don't you get a massage or take a cruise?
3.
Do you have any idea how much that stings?
Will Smith.
What the hell are you?
Your world's gonna end.
In a new film from the director of The Addams Family and Get Shorty. Men in Black. Protecting the Earth from the scum of the universe.
You know how to use these things?
No idea whatsoever.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. Find the show on Facebook and Twitter at Real Comic Heroes. All music and audio are the property of their respective creators.